Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to GameFace, episode 373 on Sifted Games at SIFTD.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, and I'm here to kind of host the next couple hours of awesome video game discussion. Alongside me to do that is the one and only Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
Oh, just trying to get my head around the Oscar nominations.
Yeah, Matt and I were talking about how some of the female actors in Barbie did not really get nominations.
Well, the one female actor, the lead, Margot Robbie,
did not get
no Best Actress, which is that is a crowded category.
That's a good way to put it.
That is a crowded category this year. The bigger snub is Greta Gerwig not getting a Best Director nomination, which is unconscionable.
Well, the irony is that the message of the film is, you know, women aren't equally represented with men, and then this kind of happens with the awards. The irony's kind of thick there.
Well, I mean, it's more like, yeah, the movie's true.
Yeah,
like, there's a reason they wrote that movie. They live in that industry, and they're, you know. But hey, the one guy in the whole cast, lead, the one major guy in the cast did get Best Supporting nomination. So hey, diversity.
Yeah.
Also, like, I mean, America Ferrera is not like she was bad. No one was bad in that movie. Yeah. But if you're going to go supporting actress for that movie, I would definitely give it to Kate McKinnon.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. Absolutely.
Weird Barbie was the breakout of that film.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I mean, America Ferrera's character gets like the big speech. Yeah. But like Weird Barbie is the supporting star.
Oh yeah, she was amazing. Not surprising, I would add.
No. Also,
they cast her perfectly.
Godzilla -1 should have gotten a Best Picture nomination. If that's not in your top 10 for the year, we're not going to get along.
Yeah.
Certainly, it should have. I would put that in place of Maestro.
Yeah.
But as we all know, the Academy has a weird hard-on for, auteur white guy obsessed with a musician made a biopic stuff. I mean, we are talking about the body that gave Best Editing to Bohemian Rhapsody, one of the worst edited films.
Yeah, you're right. It is horribly edited.
Entire life. So
Hilarious.
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But it did get a nomination for visual effects, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
First Godzilla movie to ever get nominated for an Oscar for anything.
Which is amazing.
And it cost $10 million. Which is like
hard to believe.
It's like a month of visual effects budget for the average Hollywood film.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah,
so that's very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And Nimona, an animated film nobody saw, got nominated for animated film, and it did not get nominated in the Golden Globes. It's not going to win. It's going to be either Boy and the Heron or Across the Spider-Verse. But like, it's nice to see that get recognized. That's a good one.
Okay. Today is a crazy day for us, and also for you if you're going to watch our stream today. So we have GameFace 373. That we're going to try to finish. I know you may laugh when I say this. We're going to try to finish 373 in 2 hours. It is a smaller show. We don't have as much housekeeping as we normally do. 2 hours still might be tough. We'll see what we can do. And we have big stuff in this show, by the way. We have a lot of stuff. We're going to review Palworld, which, wow, can you believe what's been happening with that game? We're going to review The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and we're going to preview both Xbox and third parties in 2024. So we have a lot to get to, and we want to get through it in 2 hours. So if the show seems a little more rushed than usual, that's why. Because after we're done with GameFace 373, we're going to break down for literally 2 minutes, and then bring the stream back up, and we're going to do the Sifted Video Game Fantasy Draft for 2024 between Matt and I. Now, let me check.
4 hours later.
4 hours later. In 5 or 6 minutes, the Sifted Fantasy Challenge will be live at SIFTD.net. And that is the fantasy league that you guys play in. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get that up before we actually do our draft. I don't want you guys to leave watching GameFace to go make your picks or whatever, but I just wanted to get it up there so we had plenty of leeway for when we actually start doing our draft. We know it's going to be up and it's ready to rock. So anyway, at 1:10 Pacific, 4:10 Eastern, the Sifted Fantasy Challenge will be live at SIFTD.net, and that's the league you guys play in. And again, just quick rules for those of you who forgot. You pick 10 games, they're weighted. So you get multipliers on each game that you pick, and the highest multiplier is the first game you pick. So the higher your pick, the more important those games are. Also, I should just mention right now, no one has ever won the SIFTD Fantasy Challenge without having all 10 games count, meaning you got to make sure that you're very careful to pick games that are definitely coming out in 2024. If you miss even one game that gets delayed out of the year, you're probably not going to win. Just laying it out there. That's pretty much how the SIFTD Fantasy Challenge works. So anyway, big day today. We don't have a whole lot of time to kind of sit around and BS at the open of the show. In fact, we should probably just get right to the housekeeping right now because we have a lot to get through. Actually, you know what? Let's check out you guys because, first of all, I got a new monitor, and it took a while to figure it out, but it's now working. And I want to see what you guys are up to because you guys were not in the show last week, and I missed you guys big time. I think everybody missed you guys not being in the show last week. So quickly, I just want to jump through chat here and see what you guys are saying. Not Cirque, thank you for Twitch Prime. Retro Current Gamer, looks like you and Matt might be incorrect about the Lions going to the Super Bowl. Yes, it's amazing. I'm rooting for the Lions. I think every NFL fan who has had their team eliminated is rooting for the Lions. I am absolutely 100% rooting for the Lions. So if you're a Lions fan, #OnePride. Not Cirque, thanks again for Twitch Prime. It's awesome, man. McWomble, thank you for Twitch Prime. Good to see you in our live stream. You don't make it on to the live show as much as you used to, so good to see you. Pain of Demise, thank you for Twitch Prime. And let's go. That's right, we're going to go. We got a big stream today. What else we got here? Everyone's saying, yes, go Lions. Yeah, I think everyone's rallying behind the Lions because they just haven't won anything since like 1991. So it's really an awesome story. So anyway, that's it. That's all we got in chat right now. I think it's time.
It's fun to see the Niners up there with Mr. Irrelevant.
With Brock Purdy.
Yeah, it's just like especially if the Lions make it. It's like you go back to the beginning of the season, tell people who's in the Super Bowl. And
yeah.
Like, what?
Well, I mean, the Niners were good last year.
Yeah, but after everything that happened there.
Yeah. Well, the crazy game was last week because the Lions played against the Rams. The Lions had traded their quarterback to the Rams. The Rams had traded their quarterback back to the Lions. Everybody thought the Rams got the better end of the deal, and they kind of did. They won the Super Bowl like the year after or whatever. But the quarterback that the Rams sent to the Lions outplayed the Rams quarterback. And I'm sorry, AJ the Legend Watson, because you're a Rams fan. But he did, and the Lions beat the Rams. So there's a huge story behind last week's game. This week, they're playing with house money. Because the Lions, even their fans, never would have dreamed that they'd make it to the NFC Championship. So it's just amazing to see. Good luck if you're a Lions fan. I'm really rooting for you guys. And with that, let's get into housekeeping for episode 373. We're going to start out with talking about a game that the review embargo lifted for today. Did you get a chance to check out any of the reviews for it, Matt?
No.
And it's not in today's show, unfortunately. We'll be talking about it in next week's show. But that game is Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. This is basically the next in the Yakuza line of video games. It's a turn-based RPG crossed with a resort management sim. And it's done very well with reviews so far. We've got some reviews already curated up at siftd.net if you want to check those out. However, kind of the offshoot story from this game this week is something that no publisher, to my knowledge, has ever done before. And basically, what's happening is Sega is going to make the New Game Plus for this game a chargeable DLC. It's going to cost you money to play the New Game Plus in Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. Matt, how do you feel about that?
It's dumb.
It's so dumb.
I mean, it's part of the deluxe upgrade, I guess, but like, which I would get anyway, so it's not going to affect me. But it's like, why would you do that? Like, that's very silly.
I don't understand it at all. Because the other thing too, Matt, is this game has been generating a ton of momentum over the last couple weeks. For me personally, I would say that I have my hype level for this game has really shot through the roof over the last couple weeks. And I'm really excited for it. Now, I never play New Game Plus. Do you?
Sometimes.
I very rarely do. I just don't have time.
These games.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that I would even finish this game is rather silly.
Right. Yeah. And
don't count on us this year anyway.
Yeah, don't count on us finishing it for our discussion in next week's episode either. That's just not going to happen.
I haven't finished a Yakuza game since I think 4 or 5.
Yeah,
like it's just
they're huge games.
Too long. Or I guess Kiwami 1 and 2 I finished. But like, those are still 1 and 2 to me.
Yeah, but this is the new precedent that's being set by Sega here, and I don't think it's a good one, Matt. Like,
no, I don't. This is why.
Why? I don't know. Do you really need to nickel and dime the fans of this franchise?
What does this get? Like. Again, the consulting agency could have told you this is going to backfire.
Horrible idea.
Like, why would you want negative press like this the week before this game comes out? It's completely stupid.
The other thing about it too, Matt, is that generally the people who play New Game Plus are your most hardcore fans. Mm-hmm. they're the people who are going to buy that game no matter what the review scores were. They're going to buy the next one no matter what the review scores are.
I would have leaned into like, hey, we got New Game Plus on day one, unlike that Spider-Man 2 thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because a lot of games, you're right, Matt, it's not just Spider-Man. Most games now, the New Game Plus isn't there on day one. Yeah. It's like a thing.
Sure.
Fine.
Like, there's no reason.
Yeah.
You're not using, of all the features you're not going to use on day one, that one.
Exactly.
You know?
But it is a selling point. You could use that as a bullet point to say, hey, we're doing things differently in a better way.
Or whatever. Like, but it's like, it's pointless.
Yep. So I don't know what they're thinking there. It seems like a lot of the Japanese publishers lately are just kind of, I don't know what they're doing. Square Enix, again, talking about NFTs.
But again, to the hardcore fans, it's not going to matter because they're buying the deluxe edition anyway.
No, you're probably right.
So,
yeah. Maybe they've done the research and they're like, actually, this doesn't really make a difference for most people who will buy the game.
No.
I don't know.
I guess not. I mean,
it's just a sentiment really around it, I think.
It's just like, what's the point?
Why?
Yeah. It's already there. Just give it to everybody. There's other reasons to get deluxe edition that are already selling people on it. And that most of those pre-orders are probably locked in already anyway. So why this all of a sudden?
Yeah, I agree. So a little bit weird. The game is coming out on Friday. Is that right? Tekken 8 Friday. Yeah. Also this on Friday.
That and this and early access on Suicide Squad.
Oh, right.
And there's a lot of this big weekend.
I'm going to be playing a lot of games this weekend. I'm going to be playing a lot of games starting tomorrow, actually. I have a lot to get through. So anyway, just a caveat about the game. And we try to mention things that happened for the first time ever in the games industry. And this was one of those cases. So a little bit surprising, particularly with this franchise. It really feels like Sega has done a really good job shepherding that franchise with fans. So it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. But to Matt's point, not that big a deal. Who worries about New Game Plus the first time they play a game? And these games are so long, you're probably not going to worry about it for like a month and a half.
Like RoboCop just got New Game Plus like yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Which, okay, sure, that's fine. Right. The timing makes sense to me. So anyway, anytime something new happens in the games industry, we try to bring it up. David5807, thank you for Twitch Prime. I'm so glad the chat's back. I said it last week, I really felt naked without you guys in the show. I felt so weird doing the whole show, not being able to glance over at chat and see what you guys are saying. So glad that you guys are back. Next story in housekeeping. We got the first look at WWE 2K24. We never cover wrestling games, and this is probably the only time we'll talk about this game on GameFace. I'm sorry if some of you guys are into these games, but it's just got to the point where I go to play them, and I play them for like 2 hours, and I just can't stand them anymore. So I am not, you don't want me reviewing the WWE games, because I also am completely unforgiving on the bugs and the mechanic problems that they always have. I think you want to hear from a fan of this franchise, because really, if you look at it with an even keel, these games are kind of garbage. Now,
the WWE games have never been as good as they should be.
Yeah, other than like the N64 era, where they were punching out of their weight class a lot. But for me, personally, wrestling games have really fallen off the map. I don't really care about them anymore. Now, as you can see right here, the big focus for this year's game is celebrating 40 years of WrestleMania, which I cannot even fathom that there have been 40 years of WrestleMania, Matt. I still remember when WrestleMania 1 happened, and I was young. I could hardly even knew what it was. But my dad, we had a satellite dish. And when you first got satellite dishes back in the day, you got every channel in the world for free, once you paid for your dish. And we got every pay-per-view for free. And so we had all the WrestleManias. The first, I think, 4 WrestleManias before they figured out how to scramble the pay-per-view stuff on satellite dishes. And we had like parties at my dad's house, and people would come over and watch WrestleMania. I can't believe that was 40 years ago now. It blows my mind.
Well, I mean, I know how old I was, because 40 was 7.
Yeah, simple math. Yeah,
I don't remember. I think the first one don't think I saw the whole thing. I think I saw like highlights of them when they were like promoting WrestleMania 3.
Yeah,
they would run WrestleMania 1 and 2 kind of like as part of the WWF like show that week. Yeah. So I think I saw
which was the WWF back then, by the way.
The pandas were brutal.
Yeah, before the World Wildlife Federation got pissed.
And the before they decided, oh no, there is a possibility you might confuse us
with this humanitarian organization.
Yeah, my God, it's Diane Fossey with a folding chair. But like, that's Jane Goodall's entrance music. My God,
I knew she was coming next. Freaking great.
The Crocodile Hunter. The Crocodile Hunter. The Crocodile Hunter.
Those pandas strong.
Yeah. But like, I remember the match between watching the match between
Hulk Hogan and
no, it was Randy Savage and King Kong Bundy.
No, that was a good one too.
For the affections of Miss Elizabeth.
Right. Yeah.
And that, and I remember the first time I didn't understand. My mom had to tell me it wasn't real. That it was. I think it was the same WrestleMania. It was around the same time. It was the one where, because one of the, I don't remember which one WrestleMania it was, but it was where somebody hit Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with
the bell right?
And swallowed his tongue right. and couldn't breathe. And I was like worried. I was like 8. I was like worried about it. And she's like, he's fine. They're acting. It's not real. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, I found out in like the wrestling magazines at my local newsstand, but I would like read the really trashy wrestling magazines that covered like the little Texas leagues and stuff, because that's where like Abdullah the Butcher was, and he would cut himself every match. And so all the photos were of all this blood all over the mat and all over the matches. Like the WWF back then was really like the pasteurized version of professional wrestling. It was a smaller league.
That was McMahon's genius.
Right.
He realized it could be a nationally broadcast.
No, you're right. Yep. So anyway, Matt and I, we don't care about wrestling anymore, but if you guys do, or you might, we wanted to bring up the WWE 2K24 is coming. It's launching like March 26th or something.
The problem with that, or beginning of that trailer, is like I don't know who any of those people are. Like it's
right.
like,
I don't either.
Completely different. It's like
other than the class,
it's like when the new G.I. Joe comic comes out. I'm like, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
Like, who are you? All these new characters. Okay.
Yeah.
Although I did learn this week, I didn't know this because I'm not super plugged into the G.I. Joe fandom. I didn't know that one of the fandom nicknames for Cobra Commander is Coco.
No, I didn't know that either. Like the little robots that deliver food in L.A.
Coco.
Do you guys have Cocos? They're these little like robots on wheels that deliver food in L.A. You see them all over the sidewalks here. They're cute.
Yeah.
They're these little cube-shaped like robots on wheels that have a little like thing that flows behind them. And I guess they just show up at the restaurant. The restaurant loads it up. It locks. And I just wonder why the homeless people don't attack these things and steal the stuff out of it.
Because you can't get into them.
I guess not.
They're very secure.
It's funny. So anyway.
And there's cameras everywhere. They're gonna,
Okay. There's probably one on Coco, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cameras on Coke all over. Like they're protected.
It's pretty cool. You see them rolling down the sidewalks here in LA when you're driving by. You're like, oh, Coco. They're cute little things. So anyway, WWE 2K24 is coming very soon in just about a month and a half. Next up, so we're going to talk about the Xbox Developer Direct, obviously.
How in the world is how much you want to bet in GTA 6 robbing like little Coco likes is going to be one of the activities in the
I'm sure.
One of the general open world activities.
I'm sure it should be. If it's not, Rockstar slipping.
Yeah, you're missing
an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, we're going to talk about the Developer Direct. We're actually going to preview Xbox in 2024, and then therefore we will also talk about the Developer Direct. However, one of the cooler things that came out of that Direct is that sharp-eyed fans managed to find a tease for a new Quake game hidden inside the video. Now, you guys may remember, we got the Quake 2, it's just a remaster, I guess.
It's a remaster, yeah.
Yeah, that came out not that long ago. I was not a fan of it, honestly, and I know some of you guys slag me for that. I do not feel like these old Quake games have aged all that well. Now, saying that, I'm completely open to a new Quake. What do you think it would be, Matt?
I don't know. And the Quake, there's two very different philosophies of Quake, and one is like this story-driven sort of alien invasion like thing, and the other is a purely multiplayer arena shooter. Mm-hmm. I think I
lean to the latter more with Quake.
When you say Quake, I think of Quake 3, which is the arena shooter.
Yeah.
I prefer the other style,
story-driven stuff. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't really care that much. I have more of an affinity for Doom. Quake always felt a little cold to me. It's a little sterile.
I'd agree with that. Yep.
And so this is not a particularly exciting tease to me. It kind of depends who's making it. I guess it's id probably. But part of the problem is like, how do you ever top Doom 2016?
I don't know. It's even Doom Eternal. I liked Doom 2016 better.
I like 2016, but I know there's people that love Eternal because Eternal's approach was different.
It's still great.
But even if you're that person, how do you top Doom Eternal?
Right.
It's like, I feel like they just nailed it so hard on both of those that Quake better have a real good idea. Also, wasn't there like a Quake Wars thing coming?
There was Quake Champions, which is just a multiplayer focused thing. That's still happening. It's still out there. Yeah. but it just never really caught on. Like, it doesn't feel like Gen Z and millennials have really attached to the Quake franchise that much.
Quake was not critical mass on the same level. Like Quake 3 alongside Unreal Tournament was sort of the explosion of first-person online combat.
Yeah.
But, like, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of desire to go back to that. Like, no one seems to be... For all we ended up having to play it over and over because all anybody wanted to play on, like, no one really seems to want Facing Worlds back.
Yeah.
It's weird that there aren't more homages to that level.
Well, there was Bolt Gun, the Warhammer boomer shooter, as people call him.
But that like doesn't... That's more Doom-derived or Quake 1-derived.
No, you're right.
Like, it doesn't remind me of Quake as
I agree. Yeah. But anyway, it does, and I agree. I think it probably is id that's working on it, because what else is id working on right now?
Yeah. Also, like, why isn't there an Unreal Remastered?
I don't know.
It feels like Unreal's sort of left to rot.
It has been left to rot, for sure.
I mean, I'm sure you only have so much time in the day to count all your Fortnite money.
Yeah, I mean, you only have so much time in the day to revive old shooters that people may or may not care about as well.
But Unreal, it'd be pretty cool to see like a modern, full-on overhaul remake of Unreal 1, because Unreal 1 was pretty cool, pretty.
Yeah,
it was too long and it got boring, but it was very pretty for the time. And if you did it up like Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora style, it'd be something to see.
For sure, yeah. But it is interesting how they kind of pick and choose which of these old shooters to revive, but it looks like Quake is next up on the docket.
What was the tease, by the way? Like, I didn't...
It was just like a logo hidden inside, one of the... It was one of the biggest stories of the week on SIFTD as far as comments are concerned. But it was just a little logo just hidden in one of the parts of the video.
Just the Quake logo? No numbers in it?
Yeah, there's no other indication, really. Some people are arguing that it's not even really a tease, because it is very subtle. But I think it is. I think it's legit, or I wouldn't have put it in.
Well, they were feeling clever on this one. Even Bethesda, like where Todd steals the trophy at one point. Like, so they're being cute on that developer direct in general. So
One Super Master Gamer, thank you for Twitch Prime. Let's go indeed. Next up in housekeeping, we have a squabble, Matt, between two old friends. Actually, oddly enough. Rockstar and Remedy are fighting over their logos because both of them just have an R. And Remedy just updated its logo, I believe, like early last year to just that R logo. I don't know why it's taking all this time for this dust up to happen.
Also, aren't they both owned by the same
Kinda.
people?
Like, they've been partners in development. Like, obviously, Rockstar handled Max Payne. Like, there's all this crossover between the two. I don't know what's going on there.
Well,
it seems very weird.
So... Like, they put it to rest as far as I saw.
It's just ridiculous.
Just
like, why?
It's like it's too close to the Rock. Like, no one's going to confuse the Rockstar anything.
Everybody knows Rockstar's logo.
It's not even the same color.
Right. I mean, the whole thing was ridiculous.
Why don't you go up to Rare next?
Right, exactly. Because they also use an R.
You own the letter R, right. Rockstar.
I mean, that's kind of the hubris.
That is their brand.
That's where they're at, yeah. But to Matt's point, it has been settled. I just found it... I mean, these guys are legitimate partners and have been for, like, 2 decades.
Yeah, there must be some kind of Max Payne beef happening.
Maybe. Like, it should have never even been in the public. Like, they should be able to call each other and be like, let's talk about this. Like, this doesn't need to go into the public.
Also, like, there's no similarity between the two.
No, it's just an R. That's it. You just, right, like you said, you own the letter R because it's completely stylized differently. The color ways are different.
I mean, people have tried dumber things for copyright. Like,
this isn't one of them.
Like that guy who kept saying he owned the word edge.
Oh, right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yep.
Constantly sued video game things, but for some reason never went after the edge.
Right. Yeah. You mean U2's guitar player? Or the shaving cream?
Yeah.
So anyway, it is funny how these huge corporations that generate billions and billions of dollars in revenue can still act like 12-year-old idiots. Like, it just blew my mind that they were arguing over this again because they are friends. It was just so bizarre.
And the chat makes a good point. Why doesn't Rockstar go after Rockstar Energy Drink?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, and
which actually does have a pretty similar logo.
It is kind of a similar. Yeah, it uses the star in there.
Also, that Ultra Strawberry Cream. I don't remember if that's Rockstar or Monster. I think that's Monster. That's really good.
I only like Red Bull. All the other energy drinks I drink, I don't like them.
Normally same, but this is a strawberries and cream one. I think it was Monster that I got on the way up to San Francisco that I was like, that's really good. Like, I would drink this just to drink it. And, but I wouldn't because it makes me, like,
crazy,
weird and angry. But, like, that's good when you're trying to drive on the 5.
It is. Yeah, I only drink Red Bull, and Blueberry Red Bull is really good. They have some Red Bull flavors that are pretty tasty. But I don't even really drink it that much anymore. I used to drink a can a day, and I
the
just
strawberries
stopped.
and cream Monster is it's also zero sugar, but that is as good as a normal soda.
No.
To me, try it. When you
I
get
would
a
try
chance.
it. Okay.
On the way back down, they didn't have any more of it. It was all gone. Like the fucking slot in the
just
same
emptied.
gas station was missing. It was like it's like they'd erased it from history. I was like, what happened? Like I was looking forward to that. It's the only reason I'm stopping in Coalinga, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, why else would you? So anyway, Rockstar and Remedy grow the F up. Next up, somebody else who needs to grow the F up. Billy Mitchell, our old pal Billy Mitchell. You remember him? He's the weird dude with the long dark hair and the goatee.
He's the guy who was famous 17 years ago for King of being
Kong.
an asshole in King of Kong.
Yeah, he is an esports athlete who at one point had a bunch of...
I don't think it counts as esports if it was before the internet.
I mean, he was like the first esports athlete, maybe.
No, there was a bunch of them back. That's been happening since before. There was somebody I saw, like, there's the first top scoring person who was ever recognized for a #1 score on any arcade game back in the day was a woman.
Who?
She was I can't remember her name, but it was for Space Invaders.
Who was the guy that set almost all the records on Atari 2600 games?
I don't remember. He was cheating most of the time.
He was, you're right. But that was the first guy
all
that
these
I
guys are
They're
fucking
all
crooked.
cheaters.
Like all these guys who've been in, like anyone who's been in that scene since like the beginning of the 80s or whatever, they've probably been doing shady stuff.
Yeah.
Like every time it comes out.
Well, here's Billy Mitchell, as it turns out, was a cheater, is a cheater.
Who I will always associate with Paul Mitchell for some reason.
That's funny.
I remember when I was a kid, there was Paul Mitchell hair products ads, and at the end of the ad, this guy in like silhouette with a hat on would turn to the camera ominously and would say, "Paul Mitchell does not want you to buy his products at anywhere but licensed hair salons." And I'm like, is Paul Mitchell gonna get me if I buy it at the supermarket? Like what the? And I always, because Billy Mitchell's so obsessed with his hair, I always think of that commercial.
He's just obsessed with himself. Period. Yeah. So what happened was they started looking at his footage and they found that he had been playing and setting his records on an emulator. They did this technical analysis of the frames of his videos.
Yeah, the way his tapes, the way Donkey Kong and Burger Time, I think also, but the way they draw on, the way MAME draws on frame by frame is different than the way the arcade board does, and his videos show MAME draw on patterns. Yeah.
So he was using an emulator.
It's definitive. It is.
Oh yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He cheated. And
there are records, and there is a way to still qualify for records if you're using MAME, but you have to say that's what you're doing. You have to say that's what you're doing.
But the Donkey Kong records, the prestige records, are set on arcade boards. And so he was stripped of all these records that he thought he had, and he has never gotten over it. No. How long ago was that? That was like 8 years ago?
A lot of years ago.
He has been fighting tooth and nail to try to get his stupid-ass records reinstated all this time.
Hey, bro, why don't you just play the game again?
Yeah. The problem
with
the problem with it, if you're that good, just do it again, right? Yeah. On an arcade board. Mm-hmm. The problem is that Billy Mitchell is wealthy because he has Hot Sauce and all these other businesses that he runs. And so he's really stupid, but he is spending all his money on what are called slap lawsuits. There's a great episode of Last Week Tonight about slap lawsuits. It explains what they are. Basically, wealthy people just suing people into oblivion because they know the other people aren't as wealthy as them and they can't afford to keep defending themselves. And that is what he has done. So there's this organization called Twin Galaxies, which also is shady AF.
Also not.
Which is insane that they control this.
It's fascinating that it's like this weird little bubble of
weirdos
who think they're important, but no one
not.
It's like that's your main accomplishment in life is that you got the top score in some weird game back in the day. Congratulations, you're the king of Puyan.
Or king of Dragster for Atari 2600. Yeah, it's funny.
But even that was not real. That was
was also faked.
They went in the fucking code and figured out it was impossible to get
this at the time that they were setting. Yeah.
That's more interesting than the records being set. Frankly. It is. It's like debunking this shit and how the way they have to go into the depths of how these games work.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's so weird.
So
you basically had to jerry rig everything on those because the system
they cared
was so
that
weak.
Much.
Well, no, I meant just to get the old games to work because you were dealing with such limited memory and power.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. Way more interesting than the fact that someone cheated to get a dragster time.
Yeah. But anyway, he just sued the crap out of Twin Galaxies until after 5 years of lawsuits, they just relented and they settled with Billy Mitchell, not to reinstate his records, but they put him in like back in the pantheon of old records or something. They
basically have a new section now that's just going to say like these people used to have records.
Yeah, and he's in there now, and that was good enough for him, so and he dropped the lawsuit. And
he's not in he's not in the actual
rule. Yeah, they didn't restore his records.
They basically created an entire asterisk section just for him
to make the lawsuits go away, basically. And so once again, I think we talked about Billy Mitchell, maybe the first year of GameFace or something. Here we are again talking about what a douchebag he is. The good news, Matt, I think, is that like he may just go away now. Finally,
yeah, it seems unlikely.
Really? He's still what else is there gonna be for him to?
He'll pop up and whine about something here and there.
Maybe.
He'll say, whatever it takes.
Well, I sure hope he's gone for good because he is one of the worst people in the video games industry.
He's not even in the industry. He's barely a footnote.
No, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Like he thinks he's
just some guy.
He is. He's just some dude who was pretty good at Donkey Kong back in the 80s. Yeah. He's trying to live off of it for the rest of his life. That's pretty funny to think about.
Yeah.
It's like, I was pretty good at Mario Kart 64 at one point. I couldn't imagine trying to make that my identity through my entire life.
I don't know.
It's really bizarre.
But, like, there's people who do that and still come off as better people than, the whole fighting game community, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, Justin Wong's very, very much about how good he is at fighting games, but that is not who he is as a person.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it doesn't override everything about him. It doesn't make him a douchebag like Billy Mitchell. So, anyway, au revoir, Billy Mitchell. Can't say I'll miss you. Next up, Ubisoft has decided it doesn't really like to release games anymore. We only get, 1 or 2 Ubisoft games a year at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we're about to get the second one maybe in like a 2-month span.
Which is insane for Ubisoft at this point.
Anymore.
Yep. Well, one of its executives, they just relaunched their subscription service called Ubisoft Plus. And you know the highest tier of that is $18 a month, Matt?
Wow.
$18 a month. For their back catalog of games. And one of their executives...
You can play that in like a month. Why would you subscribe every month?
Well, I mean, all the Assassin's Creed you couldn't play in a month, but...
You could if you were dedicated.
You're really dedicated. If you didn't sleep for a month.
Speedrunners can do it.
Maybe, yeah. But anyway, they changed Ubisoft Plus for like the 5th time. They've changed that service so many times, I can't even keep up with how it works anymore. But when they changed it again, just like a couple weeks ago, one of the executives who was behind the whole change basically said that that it's doing very well, which I was shocked by. First of all, he's like, it's doing very well. I couldn't believe that, and I do wonder if he was telling the truth. But the other thing he said is that for services like Ubisoft Plus and other services that are similar, to really thrive, players are going to have to get over the idea of owning their own games. Mm-hmm. And so that set off a firestorm. I mean, it's kind of surprising, honestly, that people got so upset about it because most people don't buy physical games anymore. But for whatever reason, the people who are left, like me, I still buy physical, got really angry over this.
No, that's not that. It's not physical games. It's buying games. Yeah, I own all my digital games.
Yeah, right. You're right. That's an important point. But
this guy seems... I think this guy is just in his executive bubble and doesn't...
Well, Game Pass, you don't own the games.
I don't think he's even talking about that. I think he's talking about games as a service. I think because you don't own you will
never own a game as a service because if the network goes away, the game's done. Yeah.
Right. You don't own Rainbow Six Siege.
Well, this was actually in reference to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown because they're asking him like, how has the adoption been with your new Prince of Persia game? And he basically was like, without saying it, he's saying it's not great. And because
people are playing it on the
and he's explaining why is because he thinks that people are still attached to owning their games and they won't technically own them if they play them on Ubisoft Plus. And Game Pass, same way. You don't own the games there. You pay your fee and you get to play them.
It's like, you don't own most of the movies you watch. You don't own...
not anymore.
You didn't own any of the arcade games you played. Like, it's
true.
You pay a fee to play the thing and you're done with the thing and that's it.
Yeah.
The desperate need for ownership over everything you touch in the video game space is extremely weird. And I think Game Pass it was smart to realize that doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah.
As long as you get to install it locally... you're fine.
And
Ubisoft,
no latency issues.
fact that Ubisoft has its own service like that is still weird to me because I don't feel like they have enough output to justify
especially
that
now.
kind of thing.
It's crazy.
I mean, they've been doing. I mean, you've got a game release every month since December.
Yeah,
assuming Skull and Bones actually
after a completely barren year last year. Yeah,
but maybe they'll turn it around going forward. But it's even like, I mean, EA Play doesn't make a lot of sense to me in that regard either. The fact that EA Play folded itself into the Game Pass thing makes a lot more sense.
Well, it does have sports games, which...
Yeah, I also don't understand why Ubisoft stuff seems to only come out on Epic Game Store now.
Mm-hmm. They probably signed a deal with them.
I guess, but...
I mean, Epic probably just gave them a grip of money and was like, hey, we're exclusive with you guys now. Do you think that Gen Z and some of the younger millennials will ever be okay with not owning their games?
Most of them already are.
Yeah, I guess they kind of are, right? It feels like the Gen Z doesn't care if they own anything.
No, I mean, it's going to be a while before any of those you're not, when you're young, you don't think about that. You don't think about preservation, or maybe one day you'll want to go back and play that game you just finished playing because you remember it fondly now.
Yeah,
and that'll come around in certain segments of the fandom as time goes on.
Vincent reminds us they've actually released 4 games in the last 4 months, which is insane for Ubisoft in 2023 and 2024. So, yeah, I
just don't think it really matters. Like, this guy is not going to control how video games are released and purchased and played, so who cares what this guy said?
Well, I did talk to a couple nephews over the holidays, and they were saying that, like, owning stuff is kind of annoying.
Yeah, because you got to find a place to put it. That's why I'm digital now, is because I don't want to buy any more fucking shelves.
Yeah, because I bought Tears of the Kingdom, a box copy, for one of my nephews, and he kind of looked at it and was like, I could tell he was like, I'm not so into that.
I'm going to carry that around with me.
And I was like, you didn't get the new Zelda, did you? And he's like, no, but he's like, this is like a real game. And that's how he described it. And I was like, what do you mean a real game? He's like, a game. And he like shook it like I can hold it, basically. And I was like, I get it. Because he has a Switch. It's loaded with games, but he has like 3 physical games total. And he's 9. So I do think...
5 games. Mirage.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Ubisoft's back on the train.
Well, I don't know.
We didn't even notice.
Well, what happens after Skull and Bones? Exactly.
You wait for whatever. I don't remember what. Nobody knows. You know when anything's coming out this year. The fantasy draft was a nightmare.
It really was. We're gonna get to that in a little bit. It was rough. So anyway, I'm interested in how you guys feel about it. Do you guys care if you own games anymore, and not just own physical games, but if you buy a digital game that is yours forever? Do you care about that, or are you like, do you finish a game and you're just like, bye bye? Because that's kind of how I am, honestly. Even though I buy physical games, I rarely go back and play games again.
Yeah.
I just don't. I just don't have the time.
I know. I have over 1,000 physical games. They're on shelves in my office everywhere. A bunch of them I didn't even pay for. They were review copies or whatever. And I know 90% of those games are going to sit on that shelf until I die.
Or until you do something with them. Yeah.
But it's like I think about that all the time, because like right at eye level as I turn around from my desk, the thing the game that is kind of right in my eye line as I turn that way is Golden Axe Beast Rider. Just happens to be where the alphabetical thing falls. And sometimes I'm like, am I ever going to play? Like, the only reason I would ever play that game again is because I turn and look at it. I'm like, I'm going to play you again, just so I don't have to think about this every time I look at you. It's that.
Yeah. Let's look at chat here.
How many copies of the Yakuza games do I have?
Like
3
I
each?
have...
Digital copies on 4 different platforms, physical copies, all the PlayStation versions. Am I ever going to use any of those?
Matt, I have Madden from like 1999 until today. And those games are worth like 50 cents.
I went to the game store, the independent, like little brick bunker game store I used to work at in the 90s when I was up in San Francisco. And they still have a stack of copies of Madden 64 that I am sure are the ones that were there when I was there in 1998. Like, I am 100% certain there was like 4 of them. And I'm like, those have been here for a quarter of a century. Yep. I'm sure of it.
Andy T. Monahan, this was also a story on SIFTD this week, reminds us that Game, which is like the UK's GameStop, is no longer accepting trade-ins for games at all. At all.
I remember Game.
That's
where I got the sequel to Hotel Dusk.
Yeah. Okay, Silk Snake says, I'll switch when digital is cheaper than physical. Because that's the crazy part. In Canada and some places in Europe, buying a digital version of a game is more expensive than buying the physical version, which is just bonkers. It should be cheaper.
There's a lot of weird laws and rules and agreements that that the retailers refuse to lose that revenue because they think, Walmart did that here. They're like, we can't sell the digital games for cheaper because then why would anyone buy them from us?
Yeah.
And look, the day will come when digital sales are so strong and retail and physical brick and mortar sales are so weak that the publishers are just going to be like, fine, fuck it, or we'll pay what we pay, and they don't need to lower the price because people buy them at that price anyway.
Yeah.
But if you really want to, that would have to be a time when, basically the publishers decide they want to phase out physical publication.
Yeah. And that means I think that's going to be a while.
That may happen.
It may happen eventually. Cinetyke says, as a Steam customer for 15 plus years, do I own the games?
Yes.
You do. You, in fact, do own those games.
That's the thing about this argument. It's like no one on PC gives a shit about this argument.
They've been dealing with this for forever.
That's been that way since 2004. Physical. I don't remember the last physical PC game I got. Probably The Witcher 3 special edition thing.
Congrim 1 says, if it's digital only, I tend to refuse purchasing for most games, especially day one.
I can't help but notice that the fucking PC market hasn't collapsed in on itself, and nobody claims they don't own PC games, and PC games haven't disappeared and stopped existing, and nobody's taken your PC games away from you, and magically suddenly you can never install a Steam purchase again. No, that doesn't happen. It never happens.
Mr. Starwalker, I buy physical games. I care about it. Kevin Rafa, I'm starting to buy more digital games, but it all depends on where the game is cheaper. C-Note 51, I don't care anymore. Too Quick Capri, I will buy less games if they go all digital. Okay. Userfriendly.exe, 7.7K are watching Pokemon play Palworld. Okay, I don't know why you dropped that in there. AJ, the Legend Watson, says, I want physical and I rarely go back, but this is how I've been conditioned. I hope one day my grandkids enjoy them. Okay.
They won't.
There'll be something way better to play then.
Movies, DVDs of movies and stuff, maybe, but the thing is, old games are not interesting to kids.
Erebus Jones says very specific here. 98.5% of all physical games are basically worthless now with no real resale value and just take up space. No, that's not true at all, man.
That's true of opened ones.
Go on eBay. You can sell your games on there.
Yeah, but they're basically, is it worth it to go through? Your average PlayStation 2 opened PlayStation 2 game is worth $20 to $30, which is pretty good for a 20-year-old video game. But is it worth going through the hassle of getting that shipped to somebody through all the eBay fees and the PayPal fee?
GameCube
not
games,
really.
GameCube games are worth tons of money, man. N64 games are worth a ton of money.
Specific ones, and you mostly sealed ones. You get a good price for almost any sealed GameCube game, no matter how common it was. But an open copy of I'm trying to think of a dumb. I don't actually have a lot of generic shovelware. All my GameCube games are the games you can only get on GameCube.
Well, the funny part is some of the shovelware are the ones that are worth the most money.
Because some of those are not.
They didn't make very many.
But I mean, stuff that was multi-platform that everybody has on all three systems, but I just don't have it.
Colin McRae Rally,
right?
Stuff like that. Sleeping Turtle 3, thank you for Twitch Prime.
Are you always going to be able to get a good price in Eternal Darkness? Yeah, until they make it available somewhere else.
Yeah. There's too many comments to get to here. But wow, you guys are passionate about this. Look, man, I ask you guys for comments all the time, and we never get this many.
Yeah. Also, older physical PC games are more of a problem because they don't work anymore. The installers don't load up anymore.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was at a party this weekend, and I ran into a guy who was an artist on the Matrix Path of Neo. He worked at Shiny for several years. And I told him the story of how Dave Perry specifically got me a giant stack of Enter the Matrixes at the end of E3 so I could take them back on the plane with us to review them, and then we gave it a 2 out of 5. And he was apparently very upset by that. Not angry, but just sort of hurt.
Because he went the extra mile.
Right.
And thinking they'll be oh, this guy's awesome, and maybe give his game no, we just review the games for what they are, buddy.
Should have gone the extra mile from the game when you're making it.
Real editorial has shattered many friendships, Matt. Let me tell you.
But I learned. So I was thinking about it because I told him I just went and got I think during the lockdown I went and I got on eBay. I got a physical copy of Path of Neo because I wanted to play it again, and my Xbox wasn't loading my Xbox version for some reason.
Yeah.
So I got a physical copy of the PC version, and getting that thing to work to install, I had to Google. It just would not load because it was not Windows. XP.
I don't know how you got it to play.
It's just ridiculous. It's very hard to get to work. Also, when I told, because he wasn't there for Enter the Matrix, and he's like, thank you for the low reviews on Enter the Matrix, actually, because Warner Brothers wouldn't give us Neo as a playable character in the first one, and the reason we got him for the second game is because the first game was rated so low.
Okay, and it was rated low because it didn't have him in it.
Yeah, because who are these
that
people?
was mentioned in every review.
Yeah. Why am I not playing as Neo?
That's great.
We did a thing.
Yeah, we actually made change.
We mattered
Completely not on purpose.
No. I'm going to pan this so next time we play as Neo. It was not going through anyone's head. It was just like, who is Ghost and why am I playing him?
We got to move on to our last story for housekeeping. I told you there weren't many in this week's episode. The last thing we want to bring up before we get into the bulk of the show is Dragon's Dogma 2. Its developers, yesterday or the day before, claimed that people were asking them about fast travel in the game. And it sounds as if maybe fast travel isn't all that prevalent in Dragon's Dogma 2.
Fast travel in Dragon's Dogma 1 is very uncommon. Like you can basically drop, I think it was arc stones or something like that. You could drop like 4 fast travel points plus like the towns, and that was it.
Yeah, well, people brought that up, and he got a little defensive about it, and he said that like any game that has very easy fast travel or a lot of fast travel points, that's because their world is boring. And that our world is not boring, and that you won't want to fast travel because there's something to do every 50 feet. That is one thing I would say about Hogwarts Legacy that really stood out for me, was when you were out in the open world, there was stuff to do like every 100 yards or whatever. A lot of games don't do that.
I don't really agree with that.
I do.
I think there is.
I would just hop on my broom, fly 100 yards, land, do my business, jump up, fly 100 yards, land, do my business.
Boring.
Well, you're never going to give that game a fair shake.
No, I gave it a plenty fair shake. I just don't think it's as good as you do. And also, I think that's true the first time you go through the areas there, and then the second time I never felt, I'm not going to fight these fucking spiders again. Like, like there is something to do, but most of it's just repetitive nonsense after you've done it the first time, or unless you're trying to grind for a quest or whatever.
I mean, it's pretty much impossible to make an open world.
I'm also not saying that like Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to have anything more than that, because that's more or less what Dragon's Dogma 1 was. It was like, okay, do you want to fight these same monsters again? Because that's what's going to respawn on that fucking mountain path on the way to the next thing. Now I understand what he's saying in the sense that like Dragon, especially I assume the second one's the same. Part of the challenge of Dragon's Dogma 1, part of the thing it was trying to present to you was the idea that traveling at night is dangerous. And so you have to kind of either plan your journey to get to where you're going before night falls, or be ready to fucking deal with it. And so letting you fast travel everywhere kind of short circuits that. So it's part of the game that you need to be able to travel through areas properly. And that's, once the night, and like I do appreciate that first game, when it's nighttime, it's nighttime. Like, it's dark. Like, you got to pull the torches out. You can't see where you're fucking going. And then that's going to attract creatures to you. It was pretty cool. So I don't disagree with him on that. And like it gave you a lot of freedom to place the stones where you wanted them to be, where you wanted to be able to fast travel to. So you could create a really efficient network to the main places you wanted to go. I never had an issue with the fast travel in that. It was just enough that it didn't get annoying.
I don't think there's ever going to be an open world game that fills up the open world with relevant crap 100%. It's just impossible. No, I mean, it would take you like 20 years to make that game.
I mean, you could. I mean, again, like
make it a small open world.
There's no real empty sections of Dragon's Dogma 1 or Hogwarts Legacy or The Witcher 3, but once you've done whatever's in that space, you don't really have a reason to go back to do it again.
Well, like, a lot of times you just clear out like a manor or something, and it's
just
like
it's a random fight, or it's a random location that has a treasure chest somewhere, and you open it, and now the only reason to do that again would be to fight the enemies again, and it's like, unless you're grinding for levels, why would you do that?
What's the point? Yeah.
So, and like, look, that's good enough. That's fine. Like, but yeah, you comes a point where you want to jump place to place. Dragon's Dogma 1 was fine, especially once the Dark Arisen update added, I think, another stone, or it gave you an extra 1 or 2 fast travel points to put down. Great, worked. Yeah, no problem. And like, gave you control over it. Like, where is the point you absolutely do not want to have to walk through again? You get to choose. I'm going to put a stone here. I'm never going to walk through this one fucking woods section again.
Being able to choose the points adds mileage.
Mitigates a lot of it.
Makes a big difference. If you're most games, you can't choose.
Well, if they're going to not give you a lot of fast travel points and you're stuck with just the ones they picked, that's
brutal,
annoying. Yeah. But they gave you like 3 or 4 ones you can just place down and create.
I think they're doing the same thing with
this
one. Yeah,
that's fine.
But interesting perspective from a developer who's working on an open world game.
I mean, it's a bold thing to say, but I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that is why I'm just saying, I can't really think of an open world game where I don't fast travel because of that reason, and I doubt his will be a huge exception. But he's right. That's why you fast travel. Like, what's the point? Skyrim, why do you jump from place to place? You want to walk over the damn mountain again.
Well, I don't want to walk, or sometimes I want to avoid, like, a difficult section of the world. Yeah. I mean, there's reasons.
I do that all the time when I'm,
Elden Ring, I found plenty of excuses to fast travel. No problem.
But there are people who played Elden Ring who are like, I've never fast traveled because everything's so amazing.
Right.
Like, all right.
Good for you, buddy.
Glad you fought the same zombie soldier 4,000 times, but I got fucking things to do.
Yep. So anyway, if you're primed for Dragon's Dogma 2, and that's coming pretty soon, just something to keep in mind, it's not going to be like your usual open world game where you can there's like a fast travel point every 300 yards. We're going to talk about a game here in a little bit where I was glad that there were fast travel points, by the way, Matt. So it is, I think, on a game-by-game basis, but a lot of it does depend on what you fill up that open space with, and we'll see if Dragon's Dogma 2 really is kind of this cut above a lot of the other open world games that are out there right now.
The other thing in Dragon's Dogma 2 is you can avoid most of the enemies if you just run.
That's true.
Like you can get there. You just got to be careful. You got to know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep.
Which is cool. Like I said, it's different. It's not brainless.
Yeah.
I guess it would be what I'd give the original game.
Yep.
Hopefully they keep that alive in the new one.
We'll see. It's coming up pretty soon. All right, we're done with housekeeping. Told you it was going to be shorter than usual, and we're about to get into the bulk of the show. But before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. That's right, people. It's Cray Mass time right here on GameFace on sifted.net. However, head to creamls.com/sifted, and there you can find how to get LS Cream no matter where you live. Well, unless you're in Pennsylvania, in which case you're going to need to get it shipped to you. But everywhere else, you can find store locators where you can go and pick it up, or you can just find places where you can buy it online and have it delivered to you. Again, it is an incredibly versatile liqueur. I like it in so many different situations. It is wintertime. It's great with mixed drinks. Put a little bit of it in with your hot cocoa or your hot chocolate, and it is absolutely delicious. So again, go to creamls.com/sifted and check it out.
And I'm going to do a quick plug, too.
Yep.
For, this is a book called it's a graphic novel, You Wish. And my friend
for
Jeff,
kids, right?
Younger, yeah, like 10ish.
Okay.
I would say. I mean, it's for everyone, but like I think the people who most enjoy it be in the tween area.
Okay.
But it's called You Wish. It's by my friend Jeff Victor. He wrote and drew the whole thing. And I believe they're working on some more. He's got a sequel coming. It's a planned trilogy. So he's drawing the sequel right now. But it's really nice. It's a charming kind of like, little like, youth adventure kind of thing if you got kids. And that.
Yeah, what's it about?
It's about a girl who accidentally finds a genie, and but it's a little more than that. Like she's kind of the genie in a weird way.
How many wishes does she get?
Oh, it's not. I'm not getting into that.
Oh, okay.
Spoilers.
Okay.
But it's like a little adventure she ends up on as a result of it.
Open it up and show him some of the art on the inside.
And it's he's a very good artist. He does kind of he does a lot of fantasy and a lot of like he already has a couple art books out that are like almost like Funko Pop style, his old art style.
I mean, that art looks Funko Pop-ish.
He's a designer for them as well. So
not a surprise.
But even before that, he would do these like kind of cute like versions of pop culture things, and like he'd do like a lineup of like Spider-Man through the years of all his different costumes,
cool.
or like all the different Hulks, or all the different Anakin Skywalker from child to Vader to the Force Ghost kind of thing. That's the kind of thing he'd do. He has whole books of that, at least 2 of them, I think. I have them downstairs. But he does a really good job with it. He's a good dude.
Called You Wish.
Called You Wish. It's on Amazon. It's pretty much everywhere.
And it's out now?
It's out now. Came out like 2 weeks ago.
Cool.
So I encourage you to go check it out.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, maybe trying to find something that the parents can enjoy reading alongside their tween might be something that you can connect on.
Yeah, that is it. You Wish, again, not to be confused with the Disney film Wish, which was a search engine optimization issue for him, but here we are. He called it that years before that was even announced.
Yeah.
So it's his big pet project.
Awesome.
He just did a signing and all this stuff, so it's going pretty well.
Cool. Try to help out our friends whenever we can here on GameFace. And with that, it's time to get on to...
And also look for his art books on Amazon if you look at there. Jeff Victor. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get on with the bulk of GameFace 373. We're going to kick things off today with our look at The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Now, Matt, you have not had a chance to play it. You paid for it.
No, I got it. And I downloaded it, all 80 whatever gigs of it, and I just never got back to the PS5.
Yeah, so first of all, if you own the PlayStation 4 version of The Last of Us Part 2, you can get it for $10. It's just a $10 upgrade. And then it's only $60, I believe, if you buy it outright. I don't think it's a full $70 game for PS5.
I don't remember.
I think it's $10 cheaper than normal. But the other thing, too, is like I have the physical version of The Last of Us Part 2. It was a little confusing. So just pro tip here very quickly. You have to have, when you first, see if I remember this correctly. When you first buy it and go to try to download it, you need the install disc in your PS5. And then once it goes through that process, you pay for it. And it's like, okay, you own it now. And it downloads it to play it. Then you have to insert the play disc into your PlayStation 5, your PlayStation 4 play disc, and that is the handshake that lets you play the game. So just a couple things to keep in mind if you're going to upgrade, and that's how I did it. Now let's talk about the actual game. I guess the first thing I would say is that I got pretty much everything I needed out of this in pretty short order. Now, it is $10, and I don't feel like I was ripped off or I didn't get what I paid for. In fact, even the amount of time that I spent with it was worth the $10 that I spent. So I'm not saying like I felt like it was a ripoff or I felt like, I got jobbed on it. But I did not get a lot of playtime out of it. As far as the content that is in the game, the biggest piece of content is what you're seeing right now. This is called No Return. And it's basically just a horde mode that you play through. And you can see there that corkboard, you can kind of choose your path a little bit, like which way you want to go. However, each mission is randomly generated as far as like the placement of objects, power-ups, the types of enemies that are going to be in each one, where they are, how aggressive they are, how many there are in each wave. All that stuff is basically randomly generated by the game. So there's no you can't read a strategy guide to get through this. Like, you just have to get good at it. And the first thing I would say is that it is hard, man. It is hard as balls. The first 3 times, I died within like 20 or 30 seconds. I just first of all, it took me a while to remember the controls. I had completely forgotten because it does have kind of goofy controls if you compare it to other sort of third-person action games. So the first couple of rounds, I was just figuring out the controls again. And then the third one, I had figured them out and still got my ass kicked. Then I started figuring it out. Figuring out that the first thing you should do is try to go make sure you grab enough bullets or you get enough supplies. Because the other thing about this is it has all the other elements of The Last of Us Part 2 in it. So it has all the crafting, the live crafting in your menus, as far as crafting Molotov cocktails and other things that you want for your inventory. And I did eventually get good enough at it that I started winning and finishing rounds. And how it works is after you finish a round, tons of stuff unlocks. New modes will unlock, new playable characters will unlock. When you first start, you only have a choice between the 2 girls. And then as you play and complete, then all the other characters start to unlock. And it really does run the gamut. I think there's 13 or 14 different characters from the game that you can ultimately unlock. And you also... in between each mission, you go back to that room that has the cork board, and there's also a gunsmith table there. And if you complete a mission, you go back to that cork board room, there's always a case on the floor. And you open that case, and it gives you a bunch of stuff for completing the prior mission. And once you do that, you have enough parts to then go and upgrade your gun. And usually you'll only upgrade like one thing. If like you have the pistol, you're like, okay, I'm gonna upgrade the reload speed. And then you go and you play the next one with that upgraded gun. But you die once, it's all over. Everything gets wiped out, and you got to start all over again. And again, while the maps are the same, everything else is different. So I ended up playing on this map like 4 different times, but every time the enemies that were in the map were different, how aggressive they are was different, whether it was like infected or humans was different. Sometimes you spawn and all the enemies are infected instead of the humans. So it really keeps you on your toes. The enemies are very aggressive. They come looking for you. You don't have to like look for them. They'll come and find you. However, as you just saw in this clip, they're still not the smartest bunch. Like, you can hide around an object and just kind of creep up behind them and execute them. And that's when I started doing that. That's when I started making it through the missions. And I would just argue, like, try to use your gun as little as possible in these. You can use it, and I have wiped out waves before with just using my gun. But the thing is, you use your gun, everybody else comes running. And so you can't take them on one at a time. And as you know, if you played the campaign of The Last of Us Part 2, when you get into trouble is when there's like 3 or 4 of them around you. It gets hard to wrangle. So the key to this really is try to use stealth kills as much as you possibly can. Only pull out the gun when it's a last resort. When they see you or there's more than one, they start rushing you. One thing that I didn't like about this is that when I first started playing, I would start looking for the enemies with good guns. I was like, oh, that woman has a shotgun or that dude has a rifle. All I have is a pistol. So I would like seek them out and try to kill them. And finally, when I did, I found out you can't pick up their guns off the ground. You can pick up bullets from that was in their gun off the ground, but you can't pick up their rifle or their shotgun and just start using it. You have to earn it. Also, in the corkboard room, in between rounds, you can buy new weapons as well. So that's why they don't let you just pick them up, because it's all tied into the currency that you get when you win each round, et cetera, et cetera. I had fun with this. It is very hard. I saw somebody else in chat was like, it's really hard. Digital Reflexes is kicking my ass. And I'm playing on moderate. And it is still hard on moderate. It looks like everybody's agreeing that it's really hard. Yeah, looking in chat here.
It's a hard the combat in the game. I mean, it's detailed and there's a lot you can do with it, but it is unforgiving, especially once you really put them up against, especially if you're trying to play it like Uncharted. That's,
right.
That's the trap, is never think you're powerful enough to take everything on, because you never are.
I see some people saying in chat, too, that the controls are clunky. I think maybe you may say that if you didn't play the base game.
I mean, I would probably say that now, having not played the base game in 3 years.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
It's just different. Like
yeah,
you said,
like you'll see here. For example, I'm hiding behind the wall. It let me stealth kill them through the wall. Did you see that? Mm-hmm. I just like skirted around the doorway and snatched them up. Like, and again, that's why I say like try to use stealth kills as much as possible in this, or melee kills, because they don't make as much noise at all as using a gun. Using a gun in this, they come running. Although you just saw there in that little section that I had 3 or 4 come at me, and I dealt with them. So you can, like, once you start to get good at it and you get used to it, you can start dealing with like more than like 1 or 2 guys coming after you. But it's still not easy. Like, you have to land a couple crazy shots here and there with your guns and maybe get a little bit lucky here and there, but you can do it. So as you can see, you also can heal yourself. You pick up bandages and right out in the field, you just wrap it up and you can increase your health. It's all about managing all of that stuff, basically. Like managing your bandages with how many bullets you have. Like, it's a survival horror game in a lot of ways, in that like you don't get very many bullets. Like when you kill someone who has a gun, you get like 2. So you definitely have to make sure that you're using your ammo intelligently, and you're not just going all willy-nilly, just basically emptying your guns, because that's how you fail, basically. You can see I completed that one. And so sometimes a wave or a mission will be like 3 waves, and there's like 5 enemies in each wave. Sometimes, though, it's just 1 wave of like 7 dudes. Again, it's all completely random. Like when I finally beat a mission, I was like, oh God, I gotta do this again. And then the next mission took me like 20 seconds to beat. Like you just don't know how the algorithm is gonna spit the stuff out in a lot of ways. So that's the bulk, really. And here you can see what you get when you finish a match. You get a bunch of points and a bunch of stuff that you can use in the corkboard room to upgrade your weapons or to upgrade you. And that's pretty much how it works. And I don't know, Matt, I played this for 40 minutes or so when it was all said and done. And I was already kind of done with it by the time that 40 minutes wrapped up. I've been playing Horde modes for a really long time. And while this is set in The Last of Us Part 2, and I will agree with some of y'all that it can feel a little bit clunky at times.
Yeah, although at the same time, they really expanded out what the combat can do, and and how it all works, the interactions with the enemies and stuff in this one. And it's nice to have a mode that just sort of highlights that without having to play through the campaign stuff.
Yep.
It's like, it's nice if you just want to like a little fix of like being creative and how to shoot people's knees out. You can just go do that.
Yeah, it's true. And I would say this too. It's a good like combat training tool. For sure. Like, if you want to get good at the combat before you jump into the main campaign so you can hit the ground running, this is a good way to do it. For sure. Now, obviously, one thing that I've glossed over and I didn't mention is that the whole game has been redone. The graphics are better. Not shockingly better.
Yeah, you kind of got to know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But, the ray tracing is, the lighting, and mainly it's the lighting.
Yeah.
Like,
you can see in the puddle there in the one shot. You can see the reflections in the puddle. So there's some stuff going on that wasn't happening in the PlayStation 4 game. But the PlayStation 4 game is still amazing looking.
It looks great. And it's just got a little bit more sheen
and
to
gloss
it. A little more of a polish on it. Is that worth, it's like, well, it's $10.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
it costs like nothing.
This mode plus the cut content plus a little coat of paint over the main game. Yeah. Great, it's $10
for $10 if you've already had it. I mean, look, if you want to play this, you should definitely play this version first.
That's how much a coffee costs. At this
point. I know. But yet, it's hard to get people to pay $4 a month to watch our content, Matt.
True.
I mean, it's kind of crazy, but that's just the way it is. People will
maybe if we injected them with caffeine when we went live.
Yeah, I mean, it does blow my mind that people are like, you know what? I'll watch an ad every 10 minutes to get GameFace for free instead of just paying $4 at our Patreon. It's like, if you're a patron, you don't have to watch any ads. They're all ad free for the first like 5 days or what. But anyway, so you may have noticed also on this run, I had an ally.
Yeah, Lev was over there.
Yeah, with the bow. And that's just random. Like, there'll be a little icon next to the thing, but you don't know that that's going to be there until you've already chosen the mission prior. So once you've chosen and finished the mission prior, then it shows you the little icon that says, hey, you're going to have a cooperative partner in this. What I found is that they won't kill anyone, but they will distract them. And in this, that is worth $1 million, man. If they'll shoot them with the arrow, and it just staggers them for like four seconds or something like that. That's enough for you to kind of run around behind them and do what I just did right there. Hack them, basically, with one of your melee weapons. So I had fun with this. I wouldn't say it's one of the more fun horde modes I've played, mostly because, like, you can't play it with other people.
It is a little odd that there's no co-op.
Like, my favorite horde modes are when it's like 4 of you together, and it's just like Gears of War's horde modes, which, one of the games that really started the phenomena.
At the same time, like, the stealth and kind of how you approach and how you control the flow of like where enemies go, just in terms of how combat works in this game, is so particular that I don't know if I'd want to try to coordinate with other people.
But you could use them to like flush people out, right?
Yeah, but like that doesn't really feel very cooperative.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, they're flushing them out.
Be an idiot, and I'll take advantage of that. I mean, that's more of a Resident Evil thing.
Yeah, kind of. Look, I did have fun with this. Not as much fun as I thought I was going to have. I'll say that. But I played it for like an hour, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I get it. Like, I had already seen all the locations at that point.
It seems like if you really enjoy the combat in this game, it's a good way to highlight that.
Yep.
But it's like, in terms of horde modes, there's better options. In terms of co-op, there's better options. In terms of like a roguelike, probably the God of War DLC is a little better at that part of it.
God of War, way better than this, by the way. And God of War's DLC, that extra that they just released, is way better than this.
And if you want to do the roguelike thing appeals to you, go get Returnal. Yeah.
Which is superior as far as a roguelite in pretty much every way.
Yeah, in terms of pulling that aspect off, definitely. But like, this is definitely for people who like, Last of Us 2's combat and want to focus on that.
Yep. And then, so this is the bulk of the content. Like, you could probably play this for days and days if you really wanted to make it all the way to the end of the corkboard. Again, don't forget, you die once, you go all the way back to mission 1 again. You have to make it through all of those corkboard missions in one run. And also, I would add, you can't save, which I found to be annoying. So I was like, I got to go do something, but I was recording, and I couldn't save it, so I just kept playing. I was like, I guess I'm not going to be able to do this other thing that I needed to do. So that was kind of annoying, I thought, that you couldn't save, like, mid-run. But I think that's also pretty typical of games like this, so I'm probably asking for something that wasn't going to happen.
That is actually a little unusual.
Yeah.
Like, obviously not saving in the middle of a mission, But having to do that whole corkboard in one run with no saving,
one
sitting,
yeah.
I bet they'll change that.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like I said, some of the missions only take like 30 or 40 seconds, but you just don't know until you start.
There's still no reason not to let people save between.
No, I agree.
Missions.
Yeah, in 2024 it should happen totally. So that is the bulk of the new content in The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, but there's other stuff too. There's a guitar free play mode where you can just sit and play the guitar as long as you want. Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, again, you don't have to play through the campaign or leave a save right where you do the guitar thing. Because that is, they spend a lot of time on that. And there's people who play whole songs on it. So.
Yeah. And then there's behind the scenes making of clips that you can watch. It's like a little mini documentary about the making of The Last of Us Part 2. And then the final big component of The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered are the lost levels. So I'm just going to jump ahead in the B-roll here so you guys can see it as I'm talking about it. Sorry. Okay, so there are 3 lost levels. And I think the longest one probably took me 15 minutes. So one of them is, and these are just levels that they built for the game that they ended up cutting out of the final game. And I'll say this, I can see why they were cut. One of the longest one is a mission where you're in the sewers in Seattle, and it starts right here. You see it. You start with like this fight with one of the infected. Eventually, they burst you through the window. You guys both fall into this crazy, raging sewer, and you get swept underground, basically. And then it's your job to find your way out of the sewer back out into open air. And it's just basically a series of like climbing or crawling through 2 sewer tubes and climbing up ladders and all that kind of stuff. It's not... When this mission first started, and when you're seeing this stuff now, I was like, how could you cut this? Like, this is incredible. Like, most developers would love that. And then you start playing the mission. And you're like, this is actually really boring. But the cool thing about it is, as you play these lost levels, there are little icons scattered around the levels. And you can turn it on or off if you want to, but I turned it on so I could check it out. And there's these little icons that you can enact that will start giving you developer commentary based around that very specific location in the level. So, and it's kind of cool. Like, if you haven't talked to a lot of game developers in your life, like Matt and I have, who we've both have interviewed just hundreds and hundreds of game developers as they're working on games. If you haven't done that, this is great insight into how they build levels and the thinking behind a lot of the decisions that they make. For example, there's one section in this level where there's a ladder, and it looks like you're going to be able to climb up and get out of the sewers, but you go over to the ladder, you climb halfway up, and the ladder's broken. And they explain why they do stuff like this, why they gave you the false hope. But if you look all the way to the top of the ladder, you can see daylight, which lets you know that you're actually only about 40 feet away from getting out the sunlight, but at the same time, you're going to have to find another way to get there. So it's very fascinating. If you've ever been interested in game development and how it works and how developers think about building levels and why they do the things that they do, the commentary in this is absolutely incredible. And it happens for all 3 of the lost missions. Another one of the lost missions. Literally, all you do is run to an old, decrepit gas station. Inside the gas station, there's a boar, and you fight the boar in the gas station. And that's it. And that literally, I think it took me like 7 minutes to finish that. And I was like... I don't know why they cut that, honestly, because it wasn't actually really a mission. It was just like this little thing where you just fight a boar in these tight confines inside a gas station. And then the third one is what you're seeing right now, which is just the opening part of the game with the big like festival that's going on. You can walk around the festival, and there's a bunch of like carnival games you can play. There's like... there's like throw the softball at the jugs. There's like the slam the hammer and ring the bell. All that kind of carnival stuff that you would expect. And you just wander around this environment that you're seeing right now and talk to people and just check out all the attractions. And I'm not sure why they cut this either, honestly.
I imagine because like the game, I think the opening of the game is about exactly as long as it should be. I don't think you needed more wandering around in the town. I think you get what you need from that initial dance scene and that the opening patrol. And
well, they said the reason that they built this was to show you that Ellie has been there for a while and that she's built relationships and that these people know her very well.
I think you get that already.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why you don't really feel like you really need this. And especially early on, like, you know, as they say, the first sentence of the novel needs to grab your attention and not let you go. Like, this isn't the way to do that.
Yeah.
There's no drama here. There is drama in the party scene that is in the main game.
Yep. But overall, the lost missions, the 3 missions, it probably took me a grand total of 25 minutes to complete all 3 of them. So there's not a lot of content there. And the missions also, I should add, they're kind of broken. It's kind of cool, actually, that Naughty Dog was brave enough to put this stuff out here after what's happened with like the Grand Theft Auto 6 leaks, where people are like, oh my god, the game looks horrible, because people don't know how game development works. They're brave here, man. Like, some of the cutscenes are gone, and they'll just have like placeholder like discussions. Like the one shot of her drinking the liquor before she goes to the party, like the bottle doesn't even line up with her mouth. Like, they've really just been like, hey, this is as far as we got on this stuff. We're not going to work on it anymore, but we're going to put it in here for you guys to check out. To me, especially coming from Naughty Dog, that's really brave. So that part was kind of cool, but generally, I spent between No Return and the Lost Levels and watching some of the making of stuff, I think I spent like maybe 2 hours total with The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Now, keep in mind, obviously, that I've already finished the base game. I already finished the campaign. So for me, I got like 2 hours of play out of it for $10. I think that's all right. I don't see myself going back to it. But the other part, too, is if you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2, this is easily the best version to buy. So I guess if you haven't, I guess I would recommend buy it either way. Like, if you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2, go buy it. I don't know what you're waiting for. It's an amazing game. Although very heavy, be ready. And if you have already played it, this is worth the $10 to go back and just, it was kind of cool to go back and interact with these people again and play with Ellie again. And so there's a little bit of a nostalgia kick there, even though it's only been a few years since the game was released. I would say that maybe I'm a little bit disappointed in the remaster aspects of the game, but
yeah, I mean, there wasn't much else you could really do with it.
Yeah, I thought that might be a little bit of a bigger jump, but it still looks amazing. The game looked amazing on PS4, so
yeah, it's not going to be like with Last of Us 1, where they basically rebuilt a lot of it.
Yeah, that was a much bigger leap for sure.
You didn't need to.
Yeah. But I did enjoy my time with it. I also, it's my game of the year, the year it came out. So, going back and playing a little bit more of one of my game of the years, always cool with me. But yeah, that's basically what you're getting for your $10 if you're upgrading. And again, the base game is cheaper. It's not $70. This game is amazing. Matt and I, it was your game of the year that year too. So yeah, definitely worth checking it out if you haven't played it before. And if you have already played it for $10, why not? That's how I see it. Any questions, Matt, or anything about it?
No.
Yeah. Let me take a quick look at chat and see if you guys have any questions. I was annoyed the documentary wasn't there. Yeah, I mean, it's just web, basically. It's like, I mean, that's kind of how they do it, though. I played it already. I'm good. Yeah, I mean, look, there's no... I mean, again, for $10...
Yeah, the only reason to hold off on this, I say, is if you want the PC version.
Yeah.
And like PC version, you'll pay full price, but it'll probably come with all this stuff in it.
Yeah. Silkshank says that wasn't the opening. This took place near the end. I guess he's talking about that... The festival?
Yeah, I guess it's a flashback, he says.
Yeah.
From later in the game.
I mean, I don't remember going back to that setting later in the game.
Well, because they cut it.
Right. But why would he say that was later in the game then?
Because they say it was, I guess I haven't seen it, but I guess they must say that they were going to have that be a flashback that happened closer to the end of the game.
Oh, okay. But it's not happening later in the game is what I'm getting at.
Chronologically in universe, no, it's from
it happened early
same
in the
night
game.
As where she kisses Dina,
her first kiss with Dina,
right?
But yeah, because they explain that when you're walking.
In the game, it would happen late in the game.
If they had used that, they would have had the flashback happen later in the game. Gotcha. Okay. Yep. So there you go. That's The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Next up, we're going to talk about the hottest game in the industry by many magnitudes, and that is Palworld. People were describing it for the last 2 months as Pokemon with guns. I have to admit, I've played the game now for about 8 hours, and I still haven't got a gun. So, well, I have one. But it's not like that's what this game is all about. And getting the guns in this is really convoluted. Matt, you have played this.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if you had to create a boilerplate statement on what this game is, it's like Pokemon crossed with like a survival sim.
Yeah, I would argue it's a survival sim with Pokemon stuck in it. Like,
how much have you played?
couple hours.
Yeah, as you play more, you'll see that that's not really the case. Like, to make progress in this, to level up, you have to catch Pokemon.
Oh, I know, but like
a lot of them, like 10 of each kind.
Right, but like it's all in service of upgrading yourself to the point of like building more shit. Like it's like I have to craft stuff often enough that I don't feel like I'm playing a Pokemon game. I feel like I'm playing a crafting survival game that is selling itself on, barely disguised Pokemon.
Well, the first couple hours are like that because they have to introduce all the mechanics. You have to build your first base. Once you build your first base, though, it's really not that way. It's the bulk of your time is out hunting Pokemon because, again, what
happens so that I don't have to keep crafting Pokeballs forever?
You're gonna have to craft Pokeballs the whole time,
that was the most annoying.
No, you're exactly. That was my biggest complaint about this game is having to craft the Pokeballs. Because they ask you to catch 10 of each kind because it gives you like these XP bonuses. And so it's pushing you the whole time. Every Pokemon, catch at least 10 of them. So you're right. When you first start, it's like just basically a 2-hour-long tutorial that teaches you like the basics of setting up your bench, and then it walks you through setting up your first base. And it teaches you how the pals, which are the Pokemon, as you're seeing right here, perfect timing, how you need them at your base to help you do stuff. So they become like your employees kind of at the base. There's an interface that you go into and you assign Pokemon to your base to accomplish specific things. And once you do that, you also have to give them beds, because if you don't give them beds, they become unhappy. You also have to keep feeding them. So eventually you get the ability to farm. And Pokemon the pals, not the Pokemon. The pals all have unique abilities. You go deep into their menus and you can see that each one of them has like a special rating. And you need to look at those special ratings on each of the pals to figure out what their job is, so to speak. So, for example, you can start farming at your base, and you can do it yourself, and you can stand there and water for forever or whatever, or you can sign one of the pals to do it. But you need to check and make sure that pal has the little water icon that will tell you that he's able to water stuff. Likewise, there are other abilities that these guys have. Like, for example, some of the pals have a fire icon, which means that you can use them as a flamethrower eventually in the game. And the way the guns work in this, and the reason why you don't get guns for a really long time, is because the guns are actually the pals. And each pal has a set of conditions that you need to satisfy before they can then be used as a weapon, meaning like hold them as like a flamethrower or a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher or a machine gun or whatever. And it took me a long time to figure out that I needed to satisfy conditions for specific pals before I could then use those pals as weapons. And so it does take quite a while before this actually turns into Pokemon with guns, so to speak. Now, once that happens, it does change the game. Now, capturing pals in this, again, very much like the last couple Pokemon games that were set in open world, like Pokemon Legends Arceus. You go out in the open world, you have free reign to go wherever the hell you want. You're basically fighting the creatures in real time, and when you weaken them enough, you throw out a Pokeball and you capture them. And it's so, in that way, it's pretty much identical to Pokemon. It's particularly the last couple Pokemon games that are now set in open world and give you a lot more freedom than they used to.
Sort of. The fact that this is in real time makes it feel very different from everything except Arceus, I would say. Just because the combat's in real, nothing stops to make any of that happen. You have to throw the ball accurately,
and you can miss it. Yeah,
it's not like the last mainline Pokemon game where you pick a option to throw the ball and it happens
automatically. Yeah, you have to throw the ball and target the pal with the ball. If it doesn't hit him, it'll fly past him and it's lost. And to Matt's point earlier, you have to. This is easily the worst part of this game that could be so easily fixed, is that you have to craft all the Pokeballs. Mm-hmm. Like, you will find a couple here or there laying around on the ground, but when you have to capture 10 of each type of pal, it's annoying to craft all that stuff. Now, eventually you get to the point where, like, if you have the right tools and you've crafted the right tools, you can gather resources a lot more quickly, and you can gather enough resources so that when you go back to your bench, you can craft, like, 10 or 15 of the balls at once, and you can go out and get your 10 of each type and then come back or whatever and craft some more. Mm-hmm. It's still annoying. I agree with you. It is the part of the game that annoys me the most out of any element of the game. But Matt, the first thing I would just say generally about this is that it shocked the living crap out of me, the quality of this game. Now, it's not overly cinematic. There's not a bunch of crazy cinemas, and there's not like a crazy story. Like, you basically just wake up on this island, and there's a bunch of monsters looking at you.
Yeah, and it really feels like a cutscene's missing.
Yeah, it does.
Like, it just starts.
The whole game's kind of like that. Like, it feels like a lot of
It is a lot, but I mean, I've seen people like saying it's like an asset flip. It's not.
No.
It plays better than that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, the plagiarism issue is a whole separate thing, but this is fine. This, like, in terms of how it plays and how finished it feels, it's I've played early access stuff that feels way less polished.
Well, honestly, the more I played it, the more shocked I became by it, because it just starts piling on the systems. Like,
Well, yeah, and they've stolen all those systems from other games, but they still put them all together in a kind of a unique way.
yeah,
It doesn't really do much for me in the sense that, like, it's all the systems it does that with are systems I don't particularly like. Like,
Yeah.
like the survival elements really kill this thing.
I
for
don't.
me.
You,
Like,
you guys
I
know, Matt and I
don't like
both
it.
hate survival games. Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, I mean, the fact that this thing has sold like 6 million copies in 4 days or something, that just speaks to how desperate the Pokemon audience is for something that feels like it was made in the last 15 years.
That feels like it's pushing the boundaries a little bit.
Anything like,
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't like survival stuff, but this is a valid direction to take the Pokemon franchise if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, you could absolutely do that.
Yeah. I would be. Well, I don't know if I would be okay with that.
I wouldn't want.
I don't want to
that,
build bases.
but like, but also like, it's not a bad idea. You know, especially because this is a big trend right now. You know, it's like, you know, I don't like it, but it's, you know, I don't like Minecraft either. What the hell do I know? You know, it's crafting is a whole generation grew up on crafting. That's what things should be to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Minecraft generation, basically.
Yeah. The issue is basically, you know, it really is starting to look like they stole some actual character models from the Pokemon games.
I mean, it looks like Pokemon, man.
I mean, it does. But
It
also,
really does.
But so does Digimon, and so does all these. You know, there's a lot of stuff.
This
that looks
game
like,
more egregiously, I believe. As far as the monster designs
there
in
are places
particular.
that look a lot. But like, as I said, people have been digging out the character models for the monsters and realizing that they line up with Pokemon character models to like the polygon. Like,
Oh, geez.
Like, and that doesn't happen by coincidence.
Accidentally.
Like that. There's a few things in here that seems pretty open and shut case. They took the model from the Pokemon game and just stuck it in their game.
Yeah.
Which is gonna. I mean, look. The one thing I will say is, like, first off, you shouldn't be using an axe on stone.
Yeah, I know.
But like, the arguments over this thing over the weekend, it's like, look, if there's a problem here that can be legally actioned upon, Nintendo will handle it.
No.
You know, the multi-billion
You don't have to
dollar
worry about that.
multi-billion-dollar national corporation does not need you to stand for them on Twitter.
Yeah,
It's
they'll
fine.
figure it out. Yeah.
Play it or don't, but like, you don't need to go to war over perceived plagiarism of Pokemon stuff.
Yeah.
It's not your problem.
Yep. And and here's the other thing too, is that like, you are leveling so much stuff in this game. So you're leveling yourself, and you have, I think, 5 or 6 different attributes. Actually, perfect timing right now. See, over on the right hand side there, well, it's perfect timing. I'm leveling up right now. I have 2 points. Those are all the attributes you have. So there's 6 that you can level up, and you can do those on your own manually. When you level up, you get 1 point every time you level up. Also, every time you level up, though, you get these other points that let you go to the building menu and unlock new things to build. And once you do that, then you go and you build them where you want. Some of the stuff, Matt, can take like 2 minutes to build. Where you're just sitting there with that animation over and over
You can
again.
get help from the pals.
Well,
Will come
eventually,
make it
you're
faster.
right. So eventually you assign pals to your base, and when you start working on stuff, they jump in and help you build it. And it cuts down the building time drastically.
Nolan Bozo Zone saying there's no way they're risking their game by directly ripping a model, and yet that does seem to be what they did.
It appears that they did in a couple cases. Yeah.
There's a couple people I've seen Twitter threads like where a couple of the heads in particular are matching up, you know, directly. And I saw a guy who's basically he's a character model team lead, and he's like, when I interview people, I have them try to match one of our character models. You know, and kind of make one of our characters. Basically, he's like, in 200 like interviews, I've never seen two people just by coincidence make something that looks
so close.
That's so close. Like, he's like, I don't know how you get that close without just taking the model out of the.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's definitely going to be. because the thing is, like, everyone's like, how come Nintendo didn't stop it? Because I really don't think you had I mean, obviously it's taking the Pokemon aesthetic, but like the thing about that is, if you want to prove that in court, and I assume it's similar in Japan, not necessarily, I don't know how that differs from here, but like, not only do you need to prove that they are stealing your look and your concept and your characters or whatever, but you need to prove that part of the intention is to confuse the consumer and make them think they're buying your product, make them think you're buying a Pokemon game, basically. Yeah. And the pre-release hype and art for this was all Pokemon with guns, which, while they do look like they were very, mishmashed, like it looks like someone who pulled a slot machine lever and just mixed up Pokemon parts. Yeah. But no one's going to confuse, the Totoro with Electabuzz colors holding 2 giant machine guns as official Pokemon stuff. But if they've actually taken assets from Nintendo stuff, now you're in deep trouble. We'll see how that unfolds. I'm sure Nintendo's legal department is on it.
Oh, they are on it. No doubt about
it. Actually, there were comments today, or maybe yesterday, from the guy who headed up the legal team for the Pokemon company for almost 20 years. And he's like, I don't understand why it didn't get stopped in its
already
before it was even put out. He's like, they must have had a reason for it, but I guarantee you there will be something that's going to happen here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
So we'll see. And there's also the issue that, like, this is a company that has used generative AI for their previous projects. They don't seem to. Then the thing about it is, everyone seems to assume that they used it for this. That's a reasonable assumption, but they've also bragged about using it for all their previous projects, but haven't for this one. So I'm not sure if that means they didn't.
Yeah, why would they not be honest about this game?
Well, maybe because they saw public sentiment is turning against the idea of that. Or maybe because it makes it more likely that they just recycle assets from Pokemon shit. Because that's another way that could have happened, is if AI was being trained on existing stuff and they just like recreated it to the exact parameter, because that's what AI algorithms do.
Yep.
That could have been how that happened too. So I'm sure we will find out in one way or another.
Yep.
But in the end, play it or don't. Like, it's not up to you to fight Nintendo's legal battles for them.
They're more than capable of doing that, as we all know. So you can level yourself up. You can also level up your base. And if you level up your base enough, then you can start building other bases. So I think it was like level 17 of my base or something. It gave me the option to build another one.
I never got to that.
Yeah.
Every level gets you can put more pals out in your base, but I never got to the point where I could have 2 bases, and I didn't play long enough.
Well, the thing too is, as you level up your base,
I don't like this game very much. I really need to emphasize, like, as someone who doesn't like survival stuff and crafting stuff, this ain't gonna change your mind.
Yeah, this won't put you over the top to make you like it.
It's actually one of the more accessible ones I've played, but it's still. I still don't. It's not the accessibility that's the problem. It's the fact that I don't think this kind of game design is any kind of fun at all. At all. I do kind of like the open world Pokemon ripoff stuff. Like that stuff really, where I would like to play a Pokemon game that kind of
like this without the building stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. If this was just the Pokemon stuff with some light base building, like not like constantly finding 40 stone and craft this. If you just like, oh, you earn this much, you've got this, you can put a base down. There you go.
Build yourself a house with a bed and
great, fine. But like that stuff is pretty cool. Like the constant crafting stuff is just like.
The crazy part too, the building mechanics are very good in this. Like built, like they're like, okay, you have a wall. Like it's very intuitive. I'm like, okay, I know where you want to put that wall.
Yeah, it's not clunky. Yeah. It's just I just don't like that.
Yeah, I get it. I don't like it either. But I have been impressed by this game in general. In just like again,
it's not a slapdash game in that regard.
No, I've been shocked at times.
And it is actually, as these things go, pretty exciting. I think people who have never played a game like the survival type game before, if you want to play with them, like I think people would pretty much pick it up. Yeah, more or less. It's
like I said, using the Pokemon as or the pals as weapons. I would look if you get to that point. Just go look at a guide, because I fumbled around with it for like an hour before I figured out how to do it. Like, I would just cheat. It's not worth figuring it out on your own, because it is very obtuse figuring out how that stuff works. But otherwise, everything else is very, very intuitive. Particularly if you've played Pokemon games in the past, you already understand the concept of like, hey, I need to weaken the critter, and then I throw my ball and I catch them. Like that concept is identically ripped from Pokemon.
Also, just the level of violence in the game.
Yeah, it's way more violent. It's rated teen. This game's rated teen.
They eat each other.
Yeah.
You can capture people.
Yeah.
Like there are pals that are actual people,
like humans.
Like and like if you can set up traps for them at your base, and if somebody wanders in your base, you own them now. Like, it's very weird.
It's a little crazy. Yeah, Vincent brings up there are plenty of guides. Oh yeah, I mean there are just This game is a phenomena. Like everybody's playing it right now, and we should bring up also it's free on free. You guys hate when we say that, but it's on Game Pass right now. It's also in early access on Steam.
Although it should be noted, there's not crossplay. It's local. It's
you can only play with 4 players.
4 players
on
the Xbox version. It's 32 on PC.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
Big difference if you're deciding which version to buy.
Also, the PC version runs way better.
Yeah, the Xbox Series version, it definitely chugs at times. There's no doubt about it. Like, it has some performance issues for sure. But I would say that I did enjoy my time playing this.
Also, I like this, where it shows me the percentage likelihood of the thing getting caught while it's doing the wiggle. I'm like, hey, Pokemon, steal that.
There's lots of stuff in this that I'm like, why isn't Pokemon...
They stole your fucking character model, steal that.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I kind of enjoyed playing this at times more than I like Scarlet and Violet.
No, yeah, in terms of the actual stuff that's like aping Pokemon, yeah. And honestly, like, this should be kind of a target for what Pokemon Legends 2 is.
Arceus 2 or whatever the hell they do. Yeah.
I mean, God knows what they'll
Although I don't want the base building to be as...
No, not the base building, but in terms of how the immediacy of the actual exploration and combat and capturing and teamwork, like that all really, like, they kind of did it.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Like, the team isn't very big. Like, I don't know how they did it. And again, this is in early access. It's going to get better. Like, the cutscenes that were missing, like, they may eventually be there. Like, they may actually put them in.
Once they get sued and have to, like, change everything to be some original design, it might really be something special.
I mean, we laugh, but you may be right. Like, that may actually spur on, like, some kind of change like that. So, it's called Palworld. If you haven't heard about it, I don't know how. It is literally the biggest thing, probably in all of pop culture right now. It is just gigantic.
Well, it's the biggest thing in games right now. Most people outside of games will have never heard of this.
They might have. I mean, this is one of those things that's starting to get where it's crossing over.
It's going to have to be on the Switch or the PlayStation.
You're right.
That's the problem.
And we should bring that up. Like, it is not available for PlayStation or Switch yet.
It will never be on the Switch. I mean,
probably not. Yeah, or Switch 2 maybe, but not Switch 1.
Nintendo would never allow that on their.
We'll see.
No.
I mean, when they start thinking about we can make X amount of dollars off each one sold, and they do the math.
Well, they'll just make their own at that point.
Yeah, it's possible. I hope that happens. I hope this inspires Nintendo to do better.
That's part of what people, it's like, oh, go ahead and let them plagiarize it. It's what it takes to get Nintendo off their ass. It's like, well, that's not going to change
probably not
Nintendo's creative output. Like,
probably not. Yeah.
But again, the fact that this no name nothing can sell 6 million copies in a weekend.
It's insane, man.
Just by sort of incorporating modern game design into the Pokemon idea. Like, wake the fuck up, guys. Yeah. Like, I don't know what and you go back and look at the last Pokemon game and you're like,
I know. What? It's a joke compared to this. It really is. It's like, it's funny reading all the DLC reviews for Pokemon Scarlet, and like all of them are just like, I can't even enjoy all the other stuff because the game runs so horribly. Like, all the cool stuff that they put in here, like, it taints it because it runs like garbage. And this has its moments where it chugs, but it just does so many other things that are advanced over the latest Pokemon games.
I mean, that's the thing, is this is not something made to be a competitor on Nintendo's own hardware.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it could never run on the Switch. Mm-hmm. Probably have trouble running on the Switch too.
Yeah.
But again,
you can see already it's chugging a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like the thing where it's, like, how come no one makes Skyrim clones? How come nobody makes Zelda clones? Because they're really hard.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure, or how come nobody's made a Splatoon clone? Because it's really hard.
Yeah.
I don't think Foam Stars is going to do well, really.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you got the balls to sort of go head to head with Nintendo on this sort of thing, there's room for improvement. I know it's not Nintendo, it's the Pokemon company. They only own a third of the company or whatever. But and why, most Nintendo stuff is not stagnant like Pokemon has been. Like, that's kind of why it's so weird, because it's the biggest IP in the world. And it's just, and they don't need to change. Because they are the biggest IP in the world.
I mean, as mediocre as Scarlet was, it still sold
like crazy.
Like crazy. Yeah. So
doesn't matter that the script barely exists and Avatar 2 made $2 billion.
Yeah.
So why would you need to improve it beyond a Captain Planet episode? Like, it doesn't need to be.
That's true.
It's not what anyone's here for.
Yep. So anyway, that is Palworld. It is taking the world by storm right now. It is bigger than anything in the games industry by several. It'll be interesting to see if, like, can Tekken 8 outsell it?
No. I mean, maybe in the long run, but it's still going to keep
Suicide
selling.
Squad kill the Justice League sell it?
No. Of course not. Suicide Squad is not going to... I'll tell you, man, I replayed Arkham Asylum this week.
Oh, really?
Because I was so irritated by all the stupid Suicide Squad coming out all the time. And I ended up loading up Arkham Asylum, and I replayed it on hard to get that last achievement on Steam.
Nice.
And, like... God, that game's 15 years old this year. And it's still fucking
amazing.
Great.
I know. It holds up, man.
Is anyone going to be playing Suicide Squad in 2039 and saying that?
I mean, it probably won't.
Will it even load?
You won't even be able to play it then. Yeah. It'll be gone. Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's Palworld, only available for Xbox Series and PC right now. It's in early access. You can just play it for free if you are a Game Pass subscriber, but you have to pay a little bit of money if you want to play it on Steam. And as we just mentioned, a lot of people are.
Yeah. And honestly, if you really do want to play it, it's probably better to play it on Steam because it's going to run way better.
Yep, that's true. Okay, let's move on. We're going to get to pretty much the last of our 2024 previews. There's a chance we may do like an indie game preview in next week's episode, but I'll be honest with you, I feel like our fantasy draft that we're going to do here in a little bit is kind of a great preview of indie games.
In 20 minutes.
Seriously.
To believe the you from the beginning of the show.
Oh, geez, we got to get moving. Okay, but first we're going to preview Xbox. We've already done Nintendo. We've already done PlayStation. It's time to talk about Microsoft in 2024. Obviously, it just had its huge developer direct this past week where we got to see a bunch of really cool stuff. However, Matt, one of the games that I would argue that I saw that I did not think was all that cool was Hellblade 2. I was kind of disappointed in what they showed of this at the developer direct. And they also mentioned that, like, it's really short.
Yeah, it's about the same length as the first one.
Yeah, which I'm like...
Now, and I do wonder what took so long in that regard, but I'm also not disappointed because the first game's great.
Yeah.
So give me another one of those with it extending the story and looks this good, fine.
It's so weird. I've been trying
and if you're really disappointed, Game Pass.
Yeah. You can't, for whatever reason, there's like no screenshots of this game on the internet. I don't know why.
It is weirdly barren.
Every screenshot is that right there. Her face screaming and with makeup on. Like, so I had to go and like grab my own screenshots from this, and it's hard. There's no moments in these trailers where you're like, yeah, that's the banner I want to put on the game page for Hellblade 2. Like, I don't know.
It's that, really.
That is what's up there right now. Yeah. Oddly enough.
This is a very weird trailer.
Yeah. All of them are, though.
How old is this now?
This is a debut trailer. Yeah, so this is 5 years old, 4.5 years old, something like that. But we have to talk about it again, so we have other trailers later on in our content. So anyway, this is now, they announced the release date. It is coming out on May 21st. So finally they've announced the release date for it. But I would say that like what they showed, and that's not what we're seeing here, because what they showed in the developer direct was more of like a developer doc with like interviews and stuff. And so we generally just run gameplay footage in GameFace. But what I saw in that developer doc, I was kind of disappointed by it, Matt. It just doesn't seem like that of an exciting game to me. Like,
I think it's I guess it could have been expanded. I mean, it took so long that I think I was sort of assuming maybe they're expanding it out into something totally different or a big... But again, it's a sequel to one of my favorite games of last generation. More of the same is fine. I'm sure they won't let any of that down because it's such an interesting experience, even having played it like 3 times.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not disappointed by what the game is. I am a little disappointed in how boring that developer doc was.
Yeah.
Like, no reflection on the game. It just felt like they didn't have many interesting things to say about it.
Yeah, and it felt low energy. I
thought that was true of all of them.
No, that's true.
In this presentation, it wasn't just Ninja Theory.
People always ask me if I want to be a developer. The reason I don't want to be a developer is look at the people in those interviews. They are beaten down.
Those are very tired people.
Yeah, that's the way it is. That's how game development is. You finish your game and it's like relief.
Yeah. Or like, I mean, that was one of the most common things when I'd go interview people or go to do shoots at they were so happy to not have to do the normal thing for the day.
Yeah.
Like they're all, I get to leave my cube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's funny.
I mean, also, yeah, same. I mean, I get to go to a whole different city and not have to see my boss for a while. But it's like, it's like, it's a hard job.
It is. I don't want it. Everybody who's a developer, and I know we have a bunch that watch the show and are in chat. Kudos to you guys. I couldn't do it. Next up, probably the biggest game, the game everybody's waiting for, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. A little bit of a generic title there.
Terrible title. That's two bad Indiana Jones titles in a row there.
Yeah.
Dial of Destiny is
not great either. This is a first-person, third-person hybrid. So most of the combat takes place in first-person, including using his whip. But when you go to climb stuff or solve puzzles, it goes into a third-person perspective where you can actually see Indy. How do you feel about that, Matt?
Yeah.
Not many games do that.
No, I mean, I'm curious how it's going to work. I mean, I don't expect really third-person out of this just because it's machine games. They do first-person shooters. It's their expertise. Would I prefer to be able to see Indy in an indie game? Probably.
Yeah.
But it's not like that helped all the other Indiana Jones games be any less mediocre than they were. So why not? I'll give it a shot.
Harrison Ford's face, but not his voice.
No. Well, because Harrison Ford doesn't sound like Harrison Ford anymore.
Yeah.
It's Troy Baker doing, I think...
He does a good job.
It's probably the best Harrison Ford impression I've ever heard, outside of Mark Hamill doing his voice for, like, gags.
Yeah.
But, like, no, Harrison Ford has a very difficult voice to imitate.
He kind of nails it.
He nails it. He's got the tone, he's got the timbre. It's very low energy.
I mean,
except like
that's kind of indie though.
No, it's not indie.
Really?
Indy's
I would feel like he's like the king of the deadpan joke.
Deadpan, but not tired, and he sounds a little tired and just kind of subdued in this. Except when he says, "Do you have any idea how old that is?" Like that's the energy you need. Maybe halfway up to that. But again, some of that I think is just the dialogue choices they're using for the trailer. I don't think Troy is not a low energy actor.
No,
So if that's how he's delivering those lines, it's going to be appropriate for the scene. It's just not necessarily appropriate for the big reveal trailer. You know?
Yeah.
But like you need more like even the trailer for Last Crusade. One of the big centerpieces of that trailer was him arguing with Sean Connery. It's like Dad, like that.
Yeah.
Like you have to punch, and there's no up and down through Indy's mood in the trailer, except at the end when he gets mad at the guy for dropping the vase, which is funny.
Yeah.
So I think,
and I hope that the writing has those moments.
So I think Troy is doing a great job here. Like Harrison Ford is very hard to copy. They have never had a good sound like for Indiana Jones or Han Solo ever. This is the closest I've ever thought to being like, maybe that is him, but I know it's not because he doesn't sound like that anymore.
Yeah.
So Troy's doing a great job there. I just hope that he gets a chance to emote in this a little more than what we saw in this trailer.
Yeah.
It just feels very subdued, and I think you need to counter that feeling because you've already had that feeling for 2 movies because Harrison Ford is older and doesn't really project the energy he normally does, even that it's just how it is. But like having a more vital, like engaged Indiana in this trailer would have gone a lot further towards exciting people. And I've seen most of the complaints I've seen have been like everyone in this trailer sounds bored.
I'm pretty encouraged by it. Like, I'm pretty excited to play the game. And the other thing, too, is it's coming this year sometime. They didn't say exactly when. I mean, I wouldn't draft it in my fantasy draft, and I didn't. But spoiler,
this could definitely slip.
I could see this not making the year. But as of right now, it's scheduled for 2024. And if it does come out, that could be a huge exclusive for Xbox. I mean, that could get people to sign up for Game Pass, for sure. So I was pleasantly surprised by it. I think I'm a little nervous about the first-person, third-person thing, but I can see why they did it because it's an Indiana Jones game. You
gotta do some third person because you gotta see him swashbuckle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an indie game, so for sure.
Probably the best compromise between that and their expertise and how they, because they do really good narrative games. First person.
Using the whip in third person would have been really weird. So I understand why
it's never worked.
Right. So I understand why they did it in first person. And from the
it's going to give you more versatility with how you can aim it and what you can do with it and how you can use it. So that's probably the right call.
Agreed.
And then switching to third person when he climbs up using it is the right call. I appreciate the attention to detail that he's coiling it up as he climbs up it. Like it's because too many indie games just. The whip is basically like a random line.
It's like it just keeps reappearing.
Yeah. It's like we're going to apply physics to a thread and call it a whip, and that's just sort of like the 3D games are all like that. So it's cool, and I'm glad it's set between Raiders and Crusade because it lets him fight Nazis, and that's where he thrives.
Yeah, fighting Nazis is always a good thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, Indiana Jones, it's scheduled for 2024. We'll see if it makes it. Next up, a game that I think both Matt and I have a soft spot in our hearts for, and that is Stalker 2. It got its another release date now, September 5th. We'll see if it makes it. Again, this team is working. Some of them are working in Ukraine. Others have left to go other places to work on the game. Bottom line is it's not an ideal game development environment for these guys, so we are cutting them some slack. If it makes it out September 5th, that's great. If not, no skin off my ass.
Yeah,
but
it sounds pretty... I mean, I don't know why you would give a specific date for this if you weren't pretty sure.
Yeah. Particularly knowing the situation that these developers are in. So right now, scheduled for September 5th. Next up, Avowed. I'm surprised that this game is coming out this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of about damn time, but also you expect about damn time doesn't really mean anything for the Microsoft second party.
Yeah, because they really just showed it for the first time in the developer direct. We got like a 1 or 2 trailers before that, but we didn't really know what was up with the game. Finally, they explain it. I will say this. I was also not particularly impressed with how Avowed looked in that presentation.
I was.
It was the same enemies over and over in the same area.
Same enemies, but it's Pillars of Eternity, so that's just... I mean, it was very much recognizable to me as someone who's played both Pillars of Eternity games as in the same world, which is cool.
Okay.
I think the visual quality is good. I think the art they showed at the end with like the guy who's like transparent and see like that's awesome. Use that art style in the game like that. Like, I hope that's the cover of the game.
I think it was gonna be
it's cool. Like,
so they put out a screenshot of it again.
Like, I'm interested in this because it sounds like they're basically doing fantasy Outer Worlds here. It doesn't sound like the areas are gigantic. It's not a Skyrim, right? It's
you finish it in 18 to 30 hours instead of 60.
Areas of things. There will probably be DLC that adds big stories to it. It's large open areas, not a big open world, but that's fine.
Yeah,
like. That was really... I like that in Outer Worlds. And in fact, one of the other things I did this weekend was I started a game of Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice, the special edition or whatever, because I got it free on Epic Games Store a couple weeks ago. Yeah. I'm like, I'll try that. I haven't played that in forever. I'll try that again. It's still fun. I still like it.
Yeah. I'm excited for this game gameplay-wise.
But again... I also loaded up the interview developer doc thing they did with these guys, with the Obsidian people for this game, like yesterday or the day before, like extended thing. I'm sorry, I'm just fucking bored listening to them talk about that, and I'm like, I'm not bored by the game. But I'm like, it's like they were making it boring.
Low energy,
It's very tiresome.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that presentation was great either. And because they kept showing the same enemies over and over, the same area over and over, I was just like, come on, man.
They never seemed to get around to really explaining what was interesting about the game, other than, it's an Obsidian game and you get to choose how you want to be and how you want to act. I'm like, yeah, I know that. I played Fallout New Vegas and everything you've made since. Of course, I'm not shocked by any of that. I assume that. Yeah. Nice to have it confirmed, but like, what's different? And like, they didn't really have anything different, and it's like, I don't need anything super different. Like a first person action RPG set in the Pillars of Eternity world is good enough for me, but if that's all you have to say, just show me a big chunk of gameplay and leave me alone. Like the only developers I felt really were interested or excited or engaged to be there were the Ara developer. Like they had some fun with it. Everybody else just felt like they were sleepwalking.
Nice segue to Ara History Untold. This is a 4X strategy game, also coming to Game Pass, which I'm like, Yahoo, that's freaking awesome. It's been in development for a long time as well.
Yeah, this has been I'm like, that game. Like,
they announced it like almost 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, building 4X games isn't easy, man.
Yeah, especially good ones.
Yeah, and I hope this one is good.
Get those cougars away from me.
Yeah. Also, by the way, people who say that we never cover 4X strategy games, here we are.
Yeah, you make it one of only 4 things in the direct. We're going to talk about it, believe you me.
This is also coming Q4, just like Avowed. I have a better feeling that this one's actually going to make it.
Yeah, this feels like it's going to show up.
Yeah, because they've already done. And by the way, like the early access reports on this have been incredible. And again, you're right. They had the spirit.
Yeah, they did.
Like, they were excited about their game.
They had gags. Like, the founder of the company randomly walking through the shot at one point. It's good. I enjoyed this section.
I did too. It was probably the most exciting part of the whole thing. Yeah,
this is the game I was least interested in, and I came out of it like the most positive about it.
I agree with you. Yep. So anyway, Ara History Untold, PC and Xbox only. It won't be coming to other platforms. And then one of the other final games that's scheduled for 2024 is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. The last one did gangbusters, got huge review scores. This one is more gamified. So one thing that I've had a problem with these games in the past is like, I usually fiddle around with them just for the tech to see how amazing the technology is.
They're not really games.
Yes, this one is a game. This is where you take up specific vocations and then you actually do the job.
Yeah, it's a good angle on the concept.
They finally found a way to gamify it without losing a lot of its authenticity that people love this series for. So This
and
game,
by making the authenticity the point.
right?
Like, why would you want to play something that doesn't accurately simulate that?
Yeah.
Like, that's a good way to take it.
Yep. So this is coming. Obviously, it's called Simulator 2024. It is coming this year.
It was definitely on my list of, okay, things that will definitely be out this year for the draft.
Like you would hope. I don't know. We'll see.
Or they got to change the name.
Yeah, exactly. That would be funny if they did change the name to 2025, but not really.
Not really. But if they do, they should actually, the logo should literally be a crossed out 4.
Cross out the 4 and scribble the 5 over top. Yep. And then the final game that we know about that's supposed to be coming this year exclusively to Xbox and not any other console is Ark 2, which this game has also been announced. This was announced at the debut of Xbox Series X. This was one of the games that was shown in that very first presentation that Microsoft did, and it's still not out.
And when it was after that at the Game Awards when they revealed Vin Diesel was in it? Or?
No, he was in. We knew it from the beginning. This is a debut trailer, and
I thought they debuted that at the Game Awards.
I don't think so.
I want to say this was a Game Awards debut.
I thought it was in their very first presentation for Series X.
I'll be honest, I'm not really keeping track of
But
this.
I'll say this, it makes sense, because then he could get Vin Diesel on his show.
That's the idea, yeah.
But either way, this game, we haven't heard anything about it. Since then, the studio has redone the first Ark and re-released it. Mm-hmm. And now I'm assuming they're moving on to this. It was supposed to come out last year. It didn't. It's supposed to come out this year now. We'll see.
I don't believe this is coming this year.
I would be surprised if it does. Because, again, they just launched the rework of the first game.
Also, if some of the allegations against Vin Diesel continued to be a thing, we'll see if he's still in the game by the end.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, a couple of things have popped up.
No. Well, we'll see, because he is the star of this game, which is a little weird, honestly.
Although I gotta wonder, like, is he the star of this game or is he just in the cutscenes?
Because it could be. I mean, my guess is he's like...
I mean, it's an open world survival game. How many characters can you really have?
My guess is he's like the first neighbor that you meet or something. He's like got his camp set up like a mile away, or he shows you where the water is or some crap. I don't know. But anyway, as of right now...
only for family.
Yeah. As of right now, this is scheduled for 2024. So there you go. Those are the games that are scheduled to come out for Xbox in 2024. Compare that to PlayStation 5. Mm-hmm. A lot more for Xbox.
Well, we don't know anything about the second half of the year for PlayStation or Nintendo.
Now, Matt, we're going to do a fun...
The difference being that Sony doesn't have a packed first half of the year like Nintendo
They haven't announced anything either, because, Matt, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5...
We got Helldivers 2. Everyone's excited about Helldivers. Well, now nobody's excited about Helldivers 2 because it turns out they're using some weird archaic kernel-level anti-cheat thing that I don't think I want on my PC, so I don't think I will be buying Helldivers 2 anymore.
We'll get it on PS5.
But it's going to run like shit.
It probably will. Okay, here's a little exercise we want to do, Matt. So there's 7 other Xbox exclusives that are announced right now. But they don't have release dates. And so I'm just going to ask you very quickly, as we go through each one of them, whether you think they're going to release in 2024 or not. Let's do this very quickly. First up, Fable.
No.
No? No chance for Fable?
No. Their big holiday game is Avowed.
Okay. No chance.
No.
I think there's like a 50% chance.
I think we'll see it this year, finally, but it won't come out this year.
Like gameplay. Okay. The Outer Worlds 2.
No.
Yeah.
No, 2 Obsidian open world RPG.
Not happening. Yep, I agree with you. Not happening. State of Decay 3.
No. I don't even know that still exists.
I'm trying to figure out how long they usually take between State of Decay entries. Do you remember how long it was?
Well, the State of Decay thing is because something happened to that company that it all collapsed in on itself. There's some real world problems with that.
Right. Well, there's like cultural issues at the studio, I believe, that were bubbled up at one point. But how long? Do you remember how long the delay was between the first State of Decay and the second one?
Not this long.
Yeah. So it's already over that amount of time.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, considering how broken these games have launched in the past, I hope they take their time.
I wonder if they're even halfway there yet.
You think it might be canceled?
It could happen.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. I'd be surprised.
I mean, I wouldn't want it to be canceled, but I think it would be canceled in the sense that the studio closes or something.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Perfect Dark.
Maybe, but probably no.
I think this is a hard no, because they've got Crystal Dynamics in there working on it now. It feels like there's 3 different studios trying to get this thing into shape.
I think the last thing we really heard from someone anonymously was nobody even knows what it is yet.
Right. Yeah, I would. Of all the games we've just listed, this is least likely, except for the next one, which is Everwild from Rare.
Oh, not a chance in hell.
I mean, this game's now been in development for 9 years.
Mm-hmm. But
Maybe not
how
that
recently were they even saying we don't even know what it is yet? We're figuring out what the gameplay should be.
3 years ago. Like, this game is either due to be shown as it's going to be or to be canceled. Mm-hmm. It's one or the other. It's a shit or get off the pot situation with Everwild at this point, I would think. I mean, you can only go so long working on a project before you're like, okay, this isn't going to work. So
isn't that right, Silk Song?
Right, exactly. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit.
That one, I'm sure I do think it's coming.
We'll see. Next, a game that I'm really excited for, Clockwork Revolution. This is a not Mass Effect. It's a Bioshock clone, kind of. Yeah,
sort of. I mean, it's evoking Bioshock Infinite's aesthetic,
right?
For sure.
This one was just shown last year for the first time in, I think, at E3 or E3 time, like in June. Mm-hmm. So it's only been announced for like 10 months. I would say this has like a 1% chance of coming out this year.
Yeah, I think this is a long way out.
But still looking pretty awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Clockpunk, steampunk stuff.
Yep.
It's neat.
And then the last one, OD from Kojima.
Oh, years away.
You think it's years away still?
He didn't even show us anything.
Yeah. I mean, this is all we got. So, yeah. Definitely not happening this year. But, I mean, we listed the games that are coming out this year, or at least they're scheduled for release this year. And you got Fable, Outer Worlds 2, State of Decay 3, Perfect Dark, Everwild, Clockwork Revolution, OD. Mm-hmm. That's Xbox's lineup. I mean, you compare that to PlayStation.
OD is going to turn out to be a dramatic game about the dog from Garfield.
That's funny. But if you compare what we just went through with Xbox for what we went through with PlayStation, like, there's no comparison. No. Like, I'm not saying that PlayStation doesn't have this number or quality of games in development. We just don't know about it.
Yeah, we just don't know what the second half of the year might be. And
so as of right now, Xbox is sitting pretty.
We have a pretty good idea of Xbox's second half of the year because I think those 3 games are it. Mm-hmm. Whereas Hellblade's about all they got for the first half.
Right.
And the rest is sort of like, take care. You know, again, Nintendo has the most solid... I mean, even if you don't care about all the games, they have the most solid release lineup. Once a month, you get something from them on their platform.
But again, we only know until June-ish.
June, yeah. But I mean, that's pretty typical for them.
Yeah.
We'll find... they'll do a direct in around what would have been E3 time, and we'll find out the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then they'll do one around Thanksgiving, and we'll find out the beginning of next year. Like, it's just, they're dependable. You can't... You can't argue against that.
I think overall, though, I think Xbox has a pretty good 2024 coming up. And like if you see the lower third there, it's like, is this the moment where the tide starts to turn a little bit? We'll see. But I think now...
people are going to have to care about these things first.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the uphill battle, is getting them to break out of the niche space.
Yeah, like stuff like, if they could get Fable out, games like that, they have a better chance.
I mean, Avowed probably has a shot at being kind of a moderate breakout hit, but you got to get people... I mean, are any of those games things people would buy an Xbox for?
Like Fable, maybe.
But Fable's not coming out this year.
Yeah.
Like any of the stuff they showed at this Direct...
Indiana Jones, maybe,
yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much it, though.
I've seen mostly disappointment when people find that out. They're like, "Oh, I guess I'm not going to play it." Like the mental barrier to buying an Xbox is pretty high with some people. I've noticed that for sure.
So anyway, there you go. That's Xbox for 2024. And our last topic for today's episode is third parties. Now, Matt, we need to get through these a lot more quickly than we just went through Xbox. And it won't be that difficult, honestly, because, Matt, I have to say, this has to be one of the most pathetic third-party game lineups I have ever seen.
I think everybody burned their stuff last year because, like, everyone who got their stuff delayed released last year, and then everything that was scheduled to be released last year got released last year. So normally the people that got stuff delayed into 2023, they'd be ready to kind of start showing their new stuff or releasing even new stuff this year. But now I think you're going to have a real drought.
Drought is it. The sad part is that, like, the games that are coming out here in the next, like, week or two are some of the best games of the year right now.
Yeah, this is, like, the most solid release chunk until, like...
For, like, Q4.
Later, yeah, much later, yeah.
Yeah. So, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Tekken 8, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, all those are coming out in the next, like, week and a half, so we're not going to discuss those. The first game we're going to discuss is a game called Banishers. Ghost of New Eden. This is a game from Don't Nod. It is a supernatural action RPG that's set in 1695. Matt and I, as you guys know, if you watch GameFace, we're big fans of Don't Nod. We've pretty much enjoyed almost all of its games at this point. This one reminds me, it looks like it maybe is built by the same team that did Vampire.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
same vibes.
There's definite vibes. That guy even looks a little bit like the vampire guy.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I like that game.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in this.
Yeah.
I like the concept. I like the characters. I like what they're after here. This could be one of the best things of the year if they're on target.
People may be sitting there right now saying Matt's crazy. But just sit tight here for the next 15 minutes when we start going through the third-party stuff, and you'll see.
Yeah, I might be criticizing the year more than I'm praising the game.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Yep. So anyway, that is coming out on February 13th. So there's not long to wait for that either. That's coming real soon, and that's coming to PC and Next Gen on February the 13th. Next up, a game we never thought we'd ever see released. Skull and Bones! Woo. Coming out also on February 16th, so not long to wait for this one either. This is also PC and Next Gen. This is Ubisoft's pirate combat game. It's been in development for 7 or 8 years. It's been canceled, pushed back,
this game can almost
reworked.
Drink now.
Yeah. Yeah, but
that bottle of rum is legal.
It's actually happening. This game is finally coming out. I'm kind of excited for it in a weird way.
I'm very curious. Yeah, I'm sort of like, what are you?
I figure if Ubisoft has worked on something this long, it can't be terrible, right?
No, I would hope not. I hope this is at least mid-range Assassin's Creed.
Right.
Good,
but the last few previews I've read for it have been very encouraging. The people are like, wow, I can't believe it's actually turned out half decent. So we'll see, but it's coming out here in just a few weeks. Again, Skull and Bones, 216, PC, PS5, Xbox Series. Next up, Alone in the Dark reboot. I have very low hopes for this. There were previews that came out of this week. This game looks like ass.
Yeah, no thank you.
I mean, they finally put out raw gameplay of it this week, extended cuts of it to do video previews, and you can just see, watching the footage, that the game is janky AF. I played a demo of this
that's true to the franchise.
It is. It is, sadly. I played a demo of this that was live, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. It was boring. I don't know why this game was given the green light, but it was, and I do not expect it to do well or be very good.
Constant returning to the Alone in the Dark well is one of the weirdest, endless IP recyclings in the game industry.
It really is. They need to let it...
Learn something.
They need to let it die in the dark is what they need to do. It is coming out March 20th. This is also PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Starting to notice a trend here is that there are no last-gen games anymore. Mm-hmm. They're all pretty much PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Next up, a game we just discussed, Dragon's Dogma 2. That comes out March 22nd. This is also PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. This is really the star of
Q1.
It is, yeah. Not even just Q1, Matt. This year, It's looking real bad. It's just a star of the year, period. We already talked about this extensively a little bit ago.
I think there will be significant things in the last half of the year. We just don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know what they are yet.
Yeah, and we're probably looking at either a Mario Kart or a 3D Mario game. It's going to be some
And the
good
Switch
stuff.
launch is going to have some stuff, so you're right.
But in terms of what we know about, there's not a lot bigger than this.
Yeah,
there's one other thing bigger than this.
Yeah,
we haven't gotten to yet.
But this is an open world action RPG.
We did get to it because that was in the Sony preview. Final Fantasy VII
Rebirth is
probably the only thing bigger and more dependable.
It's the only game setting the house on fire right now. That's for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, other than Palworld.
Yeah, Palworld and Final Fantasy VII. There you go, hand in hand.
Yep. Next up, one of my dark horse games for 2024, Ayuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. This game is, and we say it every time we talk about it, but it is the spiritual successor to Suikoden. It is being built by the people who built the original Suikoden games. They put out kind of a little bit of a tester game called Ayuden Chronicle. What was the subtitle for that one?
I don't remember. I did finish it, though.
You did finish it?
It was good.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a side-scrolling action beat-em-up thing.
And it just basically proved that the studio is proficient.
Yeah, and it felt good to play. I mean, I'm very high hopes. I mean, I backed this on Kickstarter years ago.
You're not the only one. A lot of people are excited. You can see in the chat right now, Congrim 1, can't wait, backed it day one. Link's So Good says Dragon's Dogma 2, Game of the Year 2024. I think that might be a little bit of a stretch, but we'll see.
But it's not out of the conversation.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, they're going to need to really have delivered a solid package for that, but it's up there.
Otaku are really excited for Ayuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. People who
for those of us who still think Suikoden 2 is one of the only good, legitimately great JRPG stories.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm pretty excited for that. That is coming to everything. That is one of the few games that's coming to all the systems. Next up,
not pushing the hardware too hard on that one, really.
Definitely not.
Doesn't need to.
But here's a game that is pushing the hardware. Black Myth Wukong. This comes out August 20th. This is also PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. It is a third-person action game. A lot of people saw this for the first time and thought it was another fake Korean game. I was one of those people. But this game's coming. Like, they've shown gameplay of it. You're seeing gameplay right now of a boss fight. There's been tons of it. They've released like 20 trailers for it at this point. A lot of these Korean games, they show their debut trailer, which ends up being bullshots, and then you never hear from it again. We've heard from this consistently since it was announced. So I'm confident that it's a real game that's coming, and it does have a hard release date. I'm not 100% sold that it's making it this year still, though.
I think it will, but I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I've played enough Souls-like dodge roll, combat with big monster games for the rest of my life, really. Like, I'll wait for the Elden Ring DLC. And...
This one's really good looking, though, Matt.
Technically
really
very pretty.
good looking.
I like the design of the monsters, but I just doesn't look different enough to me.
Okay. Yep. But anyway, that's coming August 20th, and again, it's PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Next up, a game that Matt was hanging his hat on last year, and he's doing it again this year. It is Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, delayed out of last year at the last minute. This game is definitely coming out this year. It already has a release date of September 9th.
So we'll see it in November?
Yeah, this is just a crazy, violent, gory Warhammer 40k game with incredible graphics, as you're seeing right now in this trailer. And these are the in-game visuals, by the way. This is not CG. Game looks stunning. We saw a bunch of gameplay cuts of it from different trade shows last year. Game's looking pretty good. If you're a Warhammer 40k fan or just a Warhammer fan in general, you should definitely keep your eye on this one.
The first one was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was 11 years ago or whatever, but like
it was a cult hit for sure.
It's 20. That was 13 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And one of my only real complaints about it was I thought the enemies were boring because it was just Chaos Space Marines and Orcs.
Yep.
But you got the Tyranid, so it's basically Space Marines versus aliens. Nothing wrong with that.
Damn right. I think this game looks awesome. I think it's going to be one of the underrated sleeper hits of 2024. But keep an eye out for that one. That's also PC and PS5 and Xbox Series. And then that's the end of the games we have hard release dates for. Now, the next game, also one that we're all very excited for and hyped for, but we're not 1,000% sure it's coming out this year, but we're crossing our fingers, and that is Star Wars Outlaws.
I think this is making it.
Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game.
Ubisoft's pipeline is back on track.
It seems that way.
So I think this is gonna get like an August-September release and slip to November.
Oh, okay.
But I've seen some stuff that probably September.
Okay. One thing I should say is Matt has a little bit of an insider line.
Every once in a while, I hear some things from
Ubisoft.
Ubi or some of my toy friends. It's amazing how often you can get an angle on things just knowing when the merchandise is supposed to come.
That's true.
Now, it doesn't always help you because a whole lot of Dune shit came out in November, and that didn't matter. That still moved to March. But But
well, that's encouraging to hear that from you.
I think we'll see this.
I really hope so. This is probably my most anticipated game of 20. It is. I mean, we announced it at our Game of the Year Awards. This is my most anticipated game of 2024, and I hope it does make it. We'll see. Now, the rest of these games, we don't even know for a fact that they're coming in 2024, but when they were announced, that's the year that they gave, so we'll see. First up, Metaphor. Metaphor is the next game from the team that's usually making turn-based RPGs, but this one's a lot different. The art looks like Persona, but the gameplay looks like something completely different. And I mean, honestly, the setting and everything else looks completely different too. But it still has the awesome anime cutscenes, a lot of things.
It really is the UI design that's the continuity here.
UI and the awesome anime cinematics. But otherwise, this is a very different type of game. It is still turn-based, the combat is, but you kind of run through an open world before you get into your skirmishes. It's a huge change of pace for the studio that makes Persona, and I'm all about it. I am really excited for this game. I'd give it 60-70% chance it actually comes out in 2024, though.
Yeah, it doesn't have any concrete release window even yet.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
Yep, makes me a little nervous. But it's called Metaphor Refantasio, and this is also another that's actually this comes to PS4 and PS5, PC, and Xbox Series. Next up, the sequel to a game of the year. It's Hades 2. This is scheduled to come out in early access this year.
Yeah.
And isn't that how the first Hades launched? It launched,
did early access like 2 years before it went final.
Before it got to version 1.0 or whatever. Obviously, again,
Changed a lot.
Yeah, it did change a lot. I don't think this one will change as much.
Probably, I think they know what they're doing here.
Yeah.
It'll be a refinement situation. I mean, Hades 1 is practically a different game.
It is.
But it's if you go from day one early access to 1.0.
But now they know what the franchise is.
Yeah.
And so this game, my guess is it won't spend as long in early access either as the first one did. But it's supposed to come out this year, and hopefully we'll all get a chance to play it. Obviously, everyone's really excited. Hades won, surprise, Game of the Year contender. Wasn't our Game of the Year, but it was for a lot of people. So this is oddly enough, it's turned into a big franchise in the games industry, which is kind of awesome.
It was only a matter of time before Supergiant, finally hit one.
Yep.
You know.
I mean, I've liked all their games.
Yeah, they've never made a bad game. They've never made anything less than a good game. I mean, I don't like Bastion and Transistor very much.
I like Bastion more than Transistor.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, before this, I think the best thing they did was Pyre.
Yeah.
Even though it was basically just NBA Jam with weird
it's really
monsters,
what it was.
But, but for whatever reason, it worked.
It was fun.
It came down to what was the game they were going to make where the gameplay really pulled me in, because the stories always pull me in.
Yeah.
I mean, like their presentation and their narrative work is always top notch.
Yeah.
Even Pyre is a fascinating world. It's just sort of a weird way to express it gameplay wise.
Yeah.
Like, but I've replayed that a second time. Like this is a great team. One thing I will say is I hope they don't just make Hades alikes forever now.
Yeah.
Like I hope this is like, because I understand like you make Hades, it's a huge hit.
You make a sequel.
And you make a sequel. You make a sequel that's monetarily, and also because like we get to refine it into what we maybe was already in our heads, ideas we didn't get to use. Like we have a bunch of stuff on the cutting room floor that could make a great game.
You make a sequel to the Game of the Year. Yeah.
But I hope they make another weird out of nowhere, what the fuck are you doing game after this one.
My guess is after the sales of Hades, they have a little bit of fun money laying around where they can try some stuff. So we'll see. But Hades 2, as of right now, it's only announced for PC. We know eventually it will be announced for consoles. But right now, it's only announced for PC. It's supposed to come into early access this year sometime. Next up, a game that we covered like it was already released, but it really wasn't. Multiversus. It's like a Smash Brothers clone.
All right, they're relaunching this.
Yeah, because they let us all play it for like a couple months, right?
Yeah, it was a while.
And then took it away and said, okay, we're gonna...
I think everyone assumed it was just going to like early access up to 1.0 or something, and then they just like, oh no,
we're actually just going to pull it away and go keep working on it. But this is scheduled to come out this year now.
Good way to kill all your momentum as a community.
It really makes no sense. I don't. It almost feels like there was a licensing issue or something. I don't know.
It's impossible. They own all of them.
I know. I don't get it, dude.
It's all Warner Brothers.
But anyway, if you're a fan of Smash Brothers, and we're probably not getting another one of those for another like 2 or 3 years at the earliest.
If ever.
Yeah, if ever. And you're looking for something new, you like the fighting style, the arena brawler, then here you go. This Multiversus. It does not have a hard release date for 2024 yet, but it's definitely coming this year, I would think.
Yeah, Q1, Q2 is what I heard.
Should be.
Whenever they figure it out.
Should be our January. It doesn't make any sense. Next up, South Park Snow Day. This game I'm pretty confident is going to make it out this year. It is a multiplayer, bloody, gory snowball fighting game set in the South Park universe. Are you excited for this game, man?
No.
Me either. Yeah. I can't think of I mean, I feel like I could have come up with a better idea to use a South Park IP than this. I don't want another strategy RPG like they were making, but like it's okay to just make like an action game set in the South Park universe. Like you don't have to go after these other like weird genres that they have been with this IP. Yeah. I don't know why they do it, but
they should have made a battle royale.
That'd be great.
In the town.
That'd be great.
100 kids in the town killing each other.
That would be amazing. I mean, I think that's kind of what they're going with here. It's just like a snowball fight or whatever.
It's not quite on that scale.
But I hear what you're saying. I think that would do huge, man. And there's so many characters now in South Park that you could you could keep releasing characters for years, like new ones.
And
so
you do the Fortnite thing, just South Park versions of real
true.
people or
that's right.
fictional characters,
which they already do in the show anyway. Yeah. I think that'd be great. But anyway,
tell me you wouldn't log in for a big event with Mecha Streisand.
Oh hell yeah!
Come on.
It's brilliant, actually. So I'm a little disappointed in this, but still kind of excited for it because it's South Park. And I will admit I've fallen off watching South Park over the last couple years.
I haven't watched South Park in forever.
Yeah. But I still have nostalgia for the IP.
One of those things where you're like, oh, that's still going, huh?
Yeah.
It's like realizing that Spawn is on issue like 378 or
right.
something now. I'm like,
it
really?
never quit. Yep.
Todd McFarlane just doesn't stop.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, he stops drawing after the 17th issue, but he doesn't stop publishing it.
Right.
Let's clarify there.
Next up, a game called The Casting of Frank Stone. This was just announced at the end of the year last year. It's a game. It's a partnership between Dead by Daylight and Supermassive. Two horror game aficionados. It's basically more in the vein of a Supermassive game, which means it's like a choose-your-own horror adventure, basically.
Which is good, because that's the only reason I'm interested in it.
Yeah, because otherwise Dead by Daylight does not hold a lot of cachet for me. But it is a horror adventure, choose-your-own adventure, where you make decisions and you try to keep everybody alive in your party. I am a fan of Supermassive. Like, I like pretty much all the stuff that they've made over the last, like, half decade or so.
Did you see the Until Dawn movie?
No.
That's
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
hitting production, but you see who wrote the screenplay?
Yeah, our friend Blair Butler is writing the script for it.
She wrote the first couple drafts of it.
Yeah.
Somebody else taking over now.
Yeah, we'll, like, punch it up or whatever.
But she's the one, former ex-play writer, Blair Butler.
It's awesome.
Was the one who wrote the...
That's her
the
second
initial
horror
stuff.
movie that's been picked up. Her script.
Third.
It's been third.
She did the invitation. She wrote the Invitation.
That's the one I knew of. Yeah.
And the one before that, she did Hellfest.
Okay. Well, not so familiar with that one.
No, she'd rather you not watch that one.
Building up her
But
chops.
she did get the WGA credit for it. So
Yeah.
she got her name on a giant billboard in LA. So that counts.
That's pretty awesome. Yep. So anyway, that's the casting of Frank Stone. Next up, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree. I mean, we don't have a release date for that, but that's got to come this year, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Like, can you wait longer than that to, like, release DLC for a single-player game? Although this isn't purely single-player, but...
no, but it's just like...
But it really is.
You're going to start hitting the point where people are going to start expecting another game out of you.
Yeah.
Unless this thing is just gigantic.
Yeah, which I think it is.
It might be, yeah.
I think it is, Matt. I also think that maybe their decision-making is like, you know what? Our games aren't the type of games where people want to play it and then immediately play another one. Mm-hmm. But they've given a nice little reprieve here between, like, it could get everybody who bought Elden Ring to jump right back in and spend the $20 or bucks or whatever it's going to cost for this big expansion. So I definitely think it's coming this year. I definitely think it's going to end up being one of the biggest releases of the year.
I have a prediction for this. I think it's going to cost $40.
You think it'll be 40?
I think it's going to be huge.
I think it's going to be big, too.
I think it's going to be basically like buying another game.
Wow.
I think it's going to be like, maybe the map isn't a completely new map, but I think it's going to be like way bigger than we think.
Okay. That's encouraging.
In terms of content to do.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you were a fan of Elden Ring, you bought it and you enjoyed it, I think you're going to get a big chunk of it, more of it, for this year.
They know the open world thing is the thing that really hooked people on this, so I think they're going to make a whole extra island or continent or something. You know, like, I think they're going to do a whole... You go to a whole other place,
opens,
basically. Yeah. Like, think like Oblivion, where you went to the Sheogorath thing, where you went to the Islands of Madness or whatever. Like that kind of thing. I think they're going to do something like that.
I agree. Yep. So that's Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree. Next up, a game we've all been waiting for release for, it feels like forever, Hollow Knight: Silksong. Is this the year it finally comes out, Matt?
Probably.
How can it not be?
I don't know.
I mean, we thought last year was going to be the year because it was scheduled to be on Game Pass in June, and they just blew right past that like it didn't matter, which is weird. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on with this game, but they need to hire more people. I guess that's what I would say. But look, when this comes out, it's going to be, whenever year it comes out, it's going to be one of the biggest games of the year. People love Hollow Knight. I really liked it. I didn't fall in love with it though. Like
it wasn't my favorite of the Metroidvanias of its era.
Yeah, but
it's you can't deny the quality.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on an island there that most people love it for whatever reason. So hopefully it comes out in 2024. Next, Homeworld 3. The revival of Homeworld. It's been 19 or 20 years since the last Homeworld came out, and Gearbox is the one publishing this. It is one of those pet projects at Gearbox. This is Randy Pitchford personally is vouching for this game. He's saying,
these are the guys who did Deserts of Karak or Kazakh.
Yeah.
So they know their stuff. Like this team has been making good Homeworld stuff already. So.
Yep. And finally, it's coming this year. It was supposed to come out last year. It didn't quite make it. It even had a hard release date last year.
Yeah, it was. But this year seems a given. Like, it seems locked in. I mean, it's like next month or something. I think.
It should make it out. If you're fans of the old Homeworld games, I mean, all I can say is that they're promising that if you're a fan of the franchise, you're not going to be disappointed in this.
Here's a fun thing. So my sister sent me it was like a letter to the advice column thing, and it was this crazy woman who was basically like, my son is an actor and he's really scary as a villain in this thing that his drama group is doing, and should I tell him that he's not allowed to act anymore because he makes me uncomfortable, and it's like, adult woman unclear on concept of acting, basically. Yeah. But she's talking about it's a group that they usually do a Shakespeare play in the fall, but this year they're doing a weird adaptation of like an old video game story, and he's like a evil bridge officer, a captain who tells the bridge officers the subject did not survive interrogation, and he's so cold when he says it, and I'm like, what game is that? So I started digging. It's Homeworld 1.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere out there's a high school drama club doing a stage adaptation of Homeworld 1, and I would very much like to see that.
Yeah, that's crazy for sure. It's how meta.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Especially because they weren't even close to alive when that game came out.
Yeah.
Like, that's fascinating that someone would be like, adapt it, because like there's not even any fucking people on screen in that game. It's just voiceover with ships. It's like, so you wrote a stage play about an RTS.
Yeah. Okay.
I like you.
We only got a couple more left, and one of them was a surprise game in the Xbox Developer Direct, and that is Visions of Mana.
Yeah.
There had to have been some kind of cash change in hands for the 20 minutes that they gave this game.
Or just like Square's like, oh, you need something to fill time? Here we go.
Or they're like, oh, you want Final Fantasy 14 on Xbox? We have this other game that we would like for you to promote if you're willing to. Who knows what kind of things are going on there? But
this feels. I think Square's in the lower position on this one, because like on one
with this game in particular, yeah.
I will say this looks pretty good.
I mean, I will say that presentation, I was shocked at how much resources Square Enix is putting behind this game.
Yeah, I mean, Mana does have a big following in Japan. It's one of those things where it's like, maybe they don't fully understand how people don't know what this is here, or they're hoping that it won't matter or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like the thing where another thing where the bunch of memes about Shinzo Abe's death popped up again this past week or week and a half. And apparently it was a thing where like people kept like meme people kept putting up pictures of him after he was assassinated that basically said "See a Space Cowboy," which is a reference to Cowboy Bebop. And one of the famous things is that that was when Japanese people found out that Americans love Cowboy Bebop, because in Japan no one gave a shit about that show.
Oh, got you.
And like it's like us finding out that like, you know, like somebody like it's like if an American politician died and Japanese people were constantly posting stuff with like quotes from like Family Matters or something, like some like thing where you're like or some random TV show that lasted 2 seasons and we never think about it again. It's like The Charmings or something. Like, and it's like it's one of those weird cultural disconnects. Yeah. And like Mana's just, you know, got a it's not like huge, but it's got like a venerable thing. People remember it started with, it was a Final Fantasy spin-off. It's Final Fantasy Gaiden.
They're putting money behind it. Lots of resources.
This looks kind of good.
It does.
Like it doesn't look amazing.
Better than I thought.
But it looks like, oh, I might enjoy playing that for a while. It looks very pleasant.
Yep, and that's also PC, PS5, and Xbox Series only. I'm kind of surprised that's not coming to last gen. At least PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
But nope.
I don't think PlayStation 4 matters anymore.
I guess it doesn't.
The only thing you'd want to put it on would be Switch.
Yeah. And then the final game that we want to bring up, I told you third parties weren't great in 2024, is Assassin's Creed Red. You think it's coming this year?
You would think.
With Outlaws, who knows?
I mean, I think Outlaws is on the schedule basically in case this doesn't make it.
Yeah.
I think Outlaws, if this is going to make it, this is their October-November release.
Yeah.
Outlaws would be sooner than that. Because, you know, Lucasfilm wants their shit.
Yeah.
You know, especially because it's kind of a light year.
Yeah.
But I do believe Lucasfilm thinks Acolyte's going to be a big hit, and that would tie in well with Outlaws at the same time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I think Outlaws is an August-September game unless this Assassin's Creed Red doesn't make it this year, and then Outlaws might shift to later to be the anchored holiday release.
Okay. But that's really one of the big X factors is the new Assassin's Creed. Again, you guys can go make your picks right now in the SIFTD Fantasy Challenge. I don't know if I'd pick that game, but it might be one of those aces in the hole. Like,
I mean, if you got 2 slots at the end that you can afford to lose, that's a fun long shot bet.
Yep, to wait till the end of the year and see if it pays off or not. So As I said before we started previewing third parties, this is one of the worst year for third-party games I've ever seen. That's it. We just gave you all the big games. And even some of those, like in prior years, we wouldn't have mentioned a lot of these games. Let's be honest. Like, it is not a great year for third-party games. So I'm hoping Nintendo with Switch 2 and its launch lineup can come through with some stuff. I'm hoping PlayStation in the latter half of the year can come up with some big stuff. There's, PlayStation has to have a big Q4 game. I don't know what it is yet, but it has to have one. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, that is 2024 for third-party games. The lineup is not great. You also
I think Ghost of Tsushima 2 is this year.
I think you may be right.
I think that
I'm really starting to lean that way.
The time is about right, and Sucker Punch hasn't done anything else.
Yeah, and we haven't heard anything about it, but we got the whole year to go, and the way a lot of stuff is marketed anymore, it's like they show it and they put it out 3 or 4 months later, and it does fine. So that could absolutely happen, and I hope it does happen. That would be awesome. So anyway, there you go. That's a third-party preview for 2024. Before we wrap up the show, we have a word from our other awesome sponsor, SoundWizardry.com.
Experience the realm of extraordinary audio with Sound Wizardry. With a decade-long journey in sound design, we animate your movies and video games with the breath of sound. Our wide-ranging services include sound design, Foley, sound mixing and mastering, audio implementation, dialogue mastering, and the crafting of unique sound effects from freshly recorded material. Our portfolio contains Baldur's Gate 3, Steven Universe, Alan Wake 2, Gwent, Cyberpunk 2077, and more. Visit soundwizardry.com and let us transmute your vision into an auditory marvel.
That's right. Hit up soundwizardry.com for all your auditory needs. It doesn't matter what you're working on. You got a project that you're working on for your business or your YouTube channel or for school, or you're making a game and you need any audio done in that game. Hit up soundwizardry.com. They can help you with pretty much all of it. And as you can see, based on that ad, they have one hell of a resume. And I have some pretty exciting news. So I talked a couple weeks ago about how I had a new idea on how to handle the sponsorship for soundwizardry.com. And they have agreed to it. And it's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited about it. You're not going to see it until we relaunch the show in February. But we're going to have a cool thing in GameFace going forward, courtesy of SoundWizardry.com. Get excited for it, because I think you guys are going to like it a lot. So anyway, that's it for GameFace 373. Again, we need to get out of here a little bit earlier than normal. What we're going to do is we're going to break down the stream. We're going to stop it for literally like 2 minutes and bring it back up, and then we'll do our SIFTD Video Game Fantasy League draft for 2024. Just sit tight. The screen will go dark for a little bit. The stream will come back up. You may need to refresh Twitch or whatever, but we'll be right back. I promise you, we're not even going anywhere. We're going to sit in these very same seats, and we just got to do some stuff on the TriCaster to save GameFace and then get the draft started, and we'll bring the stream right back up and get ready to go. If you're watching this show on YouTube or you're listening to it on any of the podcast services and you want to support us, and it would be awesome if you did, go to patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. And you can pledge whatever you want there. But if you pledge $4, you get all our content early. Pactor Factor a week early. GameFace at least 3 days early. All our other content at least 3 days early. Help us out if you can. It would be awesome. And if you don't have any money, you can help us out with Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube, go down below to the description to learn how to do that. It's very simple. And if you haven't done it in a while, just go to twitch.tv/SIFTDGames and just click twice and give us that free $2.50. That's all you got to do. We'd appreciate it very much. And if you can't do that, then just review the show or like it on YouTube. I don't know, share it on social media. There's all kinds of stuff you can do to help us for totally nothing. And we'd appreciate anything you can do to help out GameFace. We'd really appreciate it. So anyway, don't forget, we're going to send the stream down. It's just going to be like a minute or two, and then we'll be back with our SIFTD Video Game League Fantasy Draft. But thank you guys for checking out GameFace today. Also, thanks.
You need to do an up and out.
Well, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I'm just leading up to it, Matt.
Is this because the draft is a separate show?
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna take the stream down and then bring it back up for the draft. Yeah. So anyway, next week's show is gonna be great. We got, let's see, we have Tekken 8 in that show. Will we have Suicide Squad?
Yeah, I think early access should
maybe.
We at least would have first impressions, I think.
Yeah. We're going to like 3 big games in next week's episode in 374.
And then nothing for months.
So enjoy it while it lasts.
See you for Dragon's Dogma, kids.
Yeah. So thanks again for showing up for this and for being on chat. We'll see you in just a minute for our Sifted Fantasy Draft. GameFace is up and out.